Welcome, everyone, to the Julius Baer Women's Speed Chess Championship. It's time for a semifinal. It's bright and early. Perfect time for chess. I'm your host, Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky. And alongside me today, a pleasure to be commentating alongside Women's Grandmaster Jen Shahade. Jen, good morning to you. We're in the same time zone. So hope you made your coffee because we've got some exciting chess coming up.
Oh, yeah. And I bet you this chess is going to wake us up, Adanya, as we have two of the most exciting women players on the planet facing off today for a chance to get into the final. I couldn't be more happy to wake up early and call this with you.
Lovely. Here is the bracket today. We are covering Kateryna Lagno, the top seed, who faces off against Dronavalli Harika, two powerhouses of chess players, two completely opposing styles, which I think is what's going to make this match so interesting. And most importantly, the winner of this match faces the one and only Yifan in the WSCC final. So the stakes could not be higher. The players could not be better. It's going to be an amazing match, which is going to get started in just about 5 minutes. Kateryna Lagno versus Dronavalli Harika. Jen, two of the most experienced players in the WSCC who haven't had the easiest path to getting to the semifinals.
No, I mean, both of these players have been around for a very long time and faced each other many times as well. But Kateryna Lagno, indeed, actually lost her very first game in that quarterfinals, but came back with quite a bang. But first, let's take a look at her incredible accomplishments. Honestly, Danya, she's won pretty much everything except the Women's World Championship. But even that, she got ever so close. And I wouldn't bet against her winning that one day. And of course, she is the defending Women's Speed Chess champion.
Indeed, she crushed it the previous year. She's only 33 years old, but it feels like she's been everywhere. She's done everything. She's so experienced. 2018 FIDE Women's World Chess Champion runner-up. She's the 2014 Women's World Rapid Champion. She has a storied resume, and she crushed it to get to the semifinals. As you said, Jen, she lost actually the first two games of her quarterfinals match against Priyanka Nutaki. And then you would never know that when you look at this match line. I mean, this is just crazy. 17.5, 4.5 was the final score.
Yeah, it's just a total dominant performance. We can see her now getting ready for her semifinals match. As, I don't know, would you say that purple or blue?
Magenta. I don't even know what magenta looks like. I just felt like saying it. I would say purple. Actually, my favorite color.
Definitely not magenta. You said that's your favorite color, purple?
It is, believe it or not.
Love it. Okay, well, she's off to a good start for you, Danya.
She is indeed. But you know who's going to make sure she's not off to a good start? It's her opponent, Dronavalli Harika, who has just as storied of a resume. Similar ages. Harika is 1 year younger. She's 32. This is her fifth Women's Speed Chess Championship appearance. She was the 2021 finalist. Man, Jen, how disappointing losing to someone named Yifan. She's not very good, though.
That's right. Harika Dronavalli did lose in the 2021 Women's Speed Chess Championships to Yifan. So she'll be looking to avenge that. But, you know, she has to get through Kateryna Lagno first. And you're right. They're almost the same age, Danya. And you know how you can tell that is that they played each other in Oropesa Del Mar, which was the World Youth Championship site for many, many years. So they have
man, that was before my time.
Oh, really? I would have. They've gone back decades as we see this close-up of Harika, and she seems to be covering her face.
Yeah, just getting in that pre-match concentration. She's got a difficult journey ahead of her. She won her previous match as well in convincing fashion. But Dronavalli, a long chess career, decades long. It's going to be an amazing match. I mean, truly two very evenly matched players. And as I said at the start of the show, Jen, two players with completely opposing styles. Harika, very positional, very classical player. Kateryna Lagno, exclusively 1e4, extremely tactical, loves complications. I'm really curious which play style is going to prevail today.
Yeah, I mean, I am super excited to see these two play. And when you mentioned their contrasting playing styles, Danya, are you going to give us a prediction?
Am I going to give a prediction? I feel like all of my predictions age very, very poorly, but Smarter Chess predictions, those age very well. So let's look at the Smarter Chess predictions instead. See, I'm being a good commentator, just redirecting the question. Actually, we've got the Smarter Chess predictions, but we also have the results of their previous match in the 2021 WSCC semifinals. It was incredibly close. Dronavalli Harika, she won by a point, even though she lost the bullet section. It really came down to the last couple of games. It was close. Dronavalli Harika took it by a point. We even have some footage, Jen, from 2020. Believe it or not, internet existed 2 years ago. It feels like a completely different era. Look at that 180p. This is footage from the final important game with Dronavalli winning Kateryna's rook and Kateryna's time running out. Little anticlimactic from Kateryna, but look on the left side of your screen and you will see how ecstatic Harika is. Wow.
Yeah, that was an incredible match, Danya. I mean, they went into overtime there as it was just won by a hair by Harika Dronavalli. Are we going to see something similar today where we go right down to the wire? Well, I sure hope so, as the players are getting ready to start in just a couple of minutes. So no prediction on who wins. That's fair. But what about a prediction on that first opening, Danya? We've got Kateryna Lagno with the white pieces, Harika Dronavalli starting with the black. What do you think we're going to see here in this first classical game? 5-minute game, not quite classical.
Yeah, this is basically classical chess. I think we're going to see one e4 from Kateryna throughout the match. And before I delve into that, I should point out that Smarter Chess actually thinks Kateryna has a much higher win probability today. So Smarter Chess believes that these 2 years of difference between their last match and this match have actually benefited Kateryna. Smarter Chess believes that it's going to be a close match throughout, but that Kateryna's prowess in the 3+1 and 1+1 segments will yield her the victory. And I think it all is going to come down to her openings with white. I think that's going to play a big role in this match. Definitely one e4 from Kateryna. I don't remember what Harika's main openings are. I think she might be a Caro-Kann player. One e5, I think that would be up her alley. So who can drag the game into their territory, I think is going to be a really big question today, Jen.
And I think we're going to see a lot of ready type openings for Harika when she gets her crack with the white pieces, knight f3, g3 type stuff. I feel like that is something that she loves to employ, especially in the very quick time controls. And I love how she's prepping here by covering her face. You know, just take a couple minutes less of your screen time because they're going to be staring each other down on the screen for 4 hours.
Yeah, they definitely are. I think what makes the SCC, WSCC matches so magical is not only the chess, but you get to see all of the emotions. I'm a big fan of player cams in general. It adds a really magical element to these matches, and there's so much at stake. Once again, the winner of this match advances to face Yifan in the finals, but they're not thinking about that. That's not the way the chess players operate. Chess players focus on the task at hand.
That's right, because it is a mammoth task. And both of these players remember very well how difficult and tumultuous it was 2 years ago when they played each other and went into that overtime match. Yifan, of course, very challenging opponent for either of them. They're going to play that match tomorrow. But first, we have to see who gets that chair into the final spot.
Amazing. Okay, the stakes are high. The prizes are very, very generous in the WSCC. Not only does the winner advance to the title match, but there's also a lot of cash prizes. $6,000 is awarded to the winner, and very innovative, $6,000 is split by win percentage, which gives the losing player more motivation. Even if it's a blowout match, you get a lot of money per win. So you don't lose hope. You keep fighting. There's always a chance of a comeback, but there's also a lot of money to be split based on win percentage. So almost all of the WSCC matches are interesting, Jen, even if it's a blowout on the scoreboard, which I don't think it's going to be. A lot of cash at stake game after game.
Yeah, that's such an important feature, right? Because you always have to have that incentive. But I agree with you, Danya. I mean, of course, when we look at that 2021 match, we can't help but think it's going to be as tight as possible. But even if it wasn't for that, I would still predict the same because both of these players are so evenly matched today.
Absolutely. And we are just about ready to begin this semifinal match. All right, Kateryna has sat back down, taking that final pre-match break. The players spent a lot of time sitting, and we try to give them breaks. There is a break after 40 minutes of the 5+1 segment. Here we go. 75 minutes on the clock. And Kateryna with the white pieces in game one. Here we go. Always a very exciting moment, Jen, before the match begins. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what the match narrative is going to be. I think game one really, really sets the tone in an awesome way.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna have a split score after the 5 minute. And by the way, it's definitely purple. I was actually just trying to trick you because
Yeah.
sometimes. And here we have it, E4, E5. It has begun with your prediction.
And Kateryna is a perennial Ruy Lopez player. She's played this her whole life, extremely experienced. Very important for her, though, to avoid the slow start that plagued her against Priyanka Nutaki, because Harika might not give up, a 2 or 3 point lead early on. That might give her the confidence that she needs. And a very, very fashionable line. This bishop c5 move has always been popular after black plays b5, but recently players have started to delay the move b7, b5. So this is kind of all the rage now.
Yeah, and what do you make of it? Do you like the opening yourself?
It's very risky from the black side. Typically, you're not advised to play bishop g4 this early, but computers have changed everything. Chess is no longer a principled based game. If Stockfish says it's okay, then it's okay. And who am I to dispute that? But I'm curious if white pushes d4 and then tries to shove this pawn down at d5. Okay, Kateryna taking a much slower approach. She plays d3. Now she's going to play, I think, all the typical Ruy Lopez moves. Bishop b3, knight bd2, rook e1, and ultimately try to get the knight over to g3.
Well, we know how in the Women's Speed Chess Championships we might see repeat openings, so maybe that question will come back to the fore. But indeed, just trying to jam the pawn down was probably a reason that people avoided ideas like this in the first place, Nanya.
Exactly. And black has some tactical ways to meet d4, d5. Black can push b5 at the right moment. You can see Harika continues to delay it. And the knight coming to e7, very innovative opening strategy. I think trying to quickly prepare f7, f5, opening up the king side. Of course, also very, very risky. Yeah, king h8, very clear sign that Harika, very aggressive opening choice in game one. I like it a lot from the black side.
Now, notice that black is not looking to take on e3, which is one reason why we see the move rook to e1. If we knew that our opponent was going to take on e3, we might actually prefer to have the rook on f1 so we could open our file after f takes e3. But that's not really in the cards for black because it actually gives white a nice pawn in the center and kind of interferes with our plan of playing f5.
Exactly. And the other problem with pushing f5 too early is that after e takes f5, if you take back with a knight, in many instances, you're going to have to deal with the fork, g2, g4. Or I should say g2, g-fork. Okay, there's finally, Harika plays the move b5, which, 20 years ago would have been played about 10 moves earlier. She sends the bishop back to c2. And now I think she's going to try to figure out the right circumstances under which to play f5. So she does take on e3. Very good call. F takes c3 by Kateryna. And maybe Harika will actually push d5 rather than f5. That's another pawn breakthrough that black has to seriously consider.
Yeah, I actually didn't think she was going to take on e3, but now I think it makes sense. I'm usually used to playing bishop b3 after they play b5. With the bishop on c2, it obviously has some advantages, but it does make d5 look a little bit more appealing for black. That bishop on c2 a bit more passive than it would be on b3.
Exactly. And this bishop could come alive in the event that white pushes d4, but that's far in the future. Knight f1. But Kateryna, I think Harika has a great position. I would consider following up with f7, f5 now. It's no longer a pawn breakthrough. At this point, you're just occupying space on the king side. There we go, f5. I think knight g3, chasing the bishop away. Now f4 is a potential positional threat, clamping down on the e3 square. I think Kateryna should beat Harika to the punch and try to push e4 and establish an outpost there for the knight.
I agree. We got to do something. We could also consider the tactics if we try something like knight f5 and e4. Although I feel a little reluctant to do that because of rook takes f3 ideas. So e4 immediately, as you predicted, Danya, is the move.
Indeed, and a trade on e4. Kateryna takes back with the pawn, so I think she's going after the queen trade. And the endgame is going to be pretty balanced. Black has a very nice knight on f4, but white doesn't really have any weaknesses. Everything is under control. I think Kateryna might bring her rook to d1. There are some interesting tactics with knight takes h3 check, which have to be calculated. Maybe a move like knight h4 is worth considering, but that opens up the possibility for rook d2. Yeah, very nice defensive move by Kateryna, preventing knight takes h3. And her next move, I think, is going to be rook a to d1. Maybe a tiny, tiny pull here for white.
Yeah, I would like black, except notice that knight on c6. This is a bit of an annoyance, and this is one reason why we love having to move c3 in when we play the Ruy Lopez, because it prevents that knight on c6 from having a nice square.
Yeah, exactly. And also, of course, we should not forget that in some situations, a4 might be a good idea to explode the queen side, open up another front. So just a slightly more comfortable position for Kateryna. Knight to d3. Harika trying to solve her problems very tactically, forcing a trade. But Kateryna says, no, I want to keep my bishop. I think the light squares are very important. How is she going to smoke this knight out of d3, though, is the big question.
Rook b1, a very surprising move, but makes more sense when you think about your idea of a4, right? So it's not like that rook on a1 is passive. It's getting ready to jump into action itself.
And now the knight departs d3, so maybe Kateryna should take this opportunity and bring the rook back to d1 and prevent the knight from reappearing on d3. Maybe she's also thinking about a move like b4, which would make a4 even stronger because it would immobilize the b5 pawn. Okay, very good. There's b4. Maybe knight a4 from Harika, but then she has to reckon with the destruction of her queenside pawn structure. So Kateryna basically posing a lot of problems on every move, doing a really good job of milking Harika's clock. And I think she's in control. White is in control in this endgame, even if objectively it's only a slight advantage.
And now we see knight to e6, a4 played, going along with the plan. The computer really did detect that
rook
move.
f3. Rook f3 and rook d2.
Oh no, rook takes
And
f3.
she
What can
finds
we
it.
do? Shoot.
Oh. A, B, and Kateryna collapses. Rook takes c3, and the game is over.
Wait, why is the game over after rook takes c3? Because pawn takes c6, rook takes c2, and you're just up a piece.
You're just up a piece, Kateryna. The same exact thing happened in her match against Priyanka. She was better in game one. She makes a blunder. If she had taken the rook on f3, it's still a game. Yeah, black gets 2 pieces for a rook, but white plays a takes b5. Instead, Kateryna overreacts, and now she can resign. Simply down a piece, bishop b3. But okay, knight d4, either knight to d4 really should be winning with a bit of precise technique, which of course Harika will display.
Wow, what a nice shot by Harika. Rook takes f3, always tactically alert there. With the idea that after pawn takes f3, rook d2, tactical clearance idea. Very nice. And now Kateryna is going down. It's a shame, Danya, because I really like the way she played that.
Brutal. And chess is so, and this is such a good illustration as Harika very precisely gets her knight back to d4. Kateryna's queenside will collapse, and with that, her chances of a miracle save. But you can never relax. I mean, you think everything is under control. You're sitting by the fireplace, and suddenly, the fire alarm sounds. The tactic comes absolutely out of nowhere. And okay, simply knight takes c6 and knight takes b4. Kateryna will make a couple more moves, but there are too many pawns on the board.
Yeah, in the end game, sometimes these tactics come from surprise because we think, oh, it's the end game. There are no more tactics, but there are always tactics. And Harika is grateful for it as she starts off with a big win with the black pieces at that.
Amazing win by Harika. She stays tactically alert. And for Kateryna, she might be telling herself, this is all part of the plan. This is exactly how I started the previous match. I won at 17.5, 4.5. So everybody please relax. But okay, Priyanka is a great young up-and-coming player, but you don't want to give someone as experienced as Harika a big lead because she's so solid. She doesn't tend to lose games in a row. Let's see how Kateryna reacts to the black pieces. So this time it's Harika who plays one e4. A little bit uncharacteristic. It's not her main move, but she follows in the footsteps of the recent Nakamura Caruana game from Isle of Man, which saw a reemergence of this 4-knight Scotch. Very, very dangerous opening.
Yeah, I think we're going to see her switch around. That's always hard to play against in the speed chess champs, too, when they switch from e4 to ready. But hey, this looks like a promising beginning for her, as not only did she win the first game, but also off to a nice start here. I will note that Kateryna is pounding out the moves, though. Very well prepared. He's only used 3 seconds in her clock.
Yeah. And this is one of the main lines, I think, of the 4-knight Scotch. In my understanding, when white plays the move h3 early, typically the dark squared bishop comes out to f4 rather than g5. So it seems like Harika might be mixing two different plans. But because this is such a solid opening, it's not a mistake. I mean, now she can play bishop takes f6, but instead chooses to keep the tension. I like it. Bishop h4. Okay, rook b8, very typical move. Sometimes the rook drops down to b4, paying a little lateral visit to the bishop and forcing white's hand.
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about this position for black, right? That beautiful open B file, semi-open B file, and Rook B1 by Harika. It's funny. That was a key move by Kateryna in the last game
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, rook fb1 would have been kind of interesting, though then we might have to stage an intervention. Rook ab1.
Good
Okay, I
point.
mean, maybe she didn't want b3 probably because of bishop e5. And the knight on c3 becomes very vulnerable. Yeah, there's that rook b4 move.
Rook B4, right? And watch out. Those of you watching, welcome, first of all. Good morning or good evening, wherever you are. And just remember loose pieces. This is something that even the best players in the world lose because of loose pieces. It happened last game, but right now we're in an end game. Who do you prefer in this end game? Do you like the bishops or do you like the better structure?
I like the bishop pair. I'm a sucker for the bishop pair. I also like that black has a lot of mobility on the queen side. There's c5, c4. Yeah, Kateryna with a5, potentially pushing the pawn to a4. Both sides are really, really solid here, but I like black's space advantage. I like how compactly black's bishops are placed. But objectively, the position is definitely closer to equal. Maybe I would consider bishop e5 and then slowly start, or not so slowly, start dragging your c-pawn down the board. Sometimes white experiences some trouble finding good spots for the minor pieces, particularly if black tries to get the pawn to c4.
Yeah, I would really love to get my knight to like D4 or something like that, right? But no, and there it is. But notice
There it
A3
is.
is hanging. A3 is hanging, so we got to wonder about what's going on there. But we can take back on E6. So and then all of your pawns seem to be hanging on the sixth row. So I'm not sure she can take on A3 right now.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of options. You can play bishop e5, but I think Kateryna's probably already playing for the advantage. So bishop d7, but maybe bishop f5 now is a little bit unpleasant. I mean, even knight f5, you can even sack the a-pawn, but Harika, she pushes a4. Everything is now protected, and you called it, Jen. I think once the knight appears on d4, white's problems are mostly solved because the knight can jump to f5. If black plays c5, the knight can also jump into this newly created outpost on b5. So now the position, once again, I think is quite balanced.
Yeah, the idea is that you've got two bishops, and I'm trying to trade off a minor piece or force you to make concessions if you want to keep both of your bishops.
I don't know what I'm doing there on the board. I'm like, this is like second grade art class. You're talking about the position. I'm drawing an arrow from f6 to c5. But yeah, now a big decision for white. Where do you go? Knight f5 or knight b5? No, not
Yeah,
knight takes c5. That is illegal.
and do we have the option of playing bishop f5 as well, with the idea that just takes on d4, we have bishop takes d7. Again, those loose pieces allow for extra options, but we do have to keep in mind bishop takes a4 in that line, so perhaps not a good idea quite yet.
Actually, a fantastic line if we could pull up an analysis board. Very Okay, knight f5 played. But very, very quickly, yeah, bishop f5 was a totally legitimate alternative, but bishop takes a4. Always watch for these desperado tactics. B takes a4, C takes d4. Black goes up a pawn. Probably the position would have remained largely equal, but instead, yeah, here white can play maybe bishop back to d3. The position remains balanced. Instead, we have bishop f5, or sorry, knight f5, bishop takes f5, bishop takes f5, and now that white has saved a pawn, I think probably Harika's in the driver's seat by a little bit. You can play rook d1. You can maybe in the future harass black's kingside pawns. But with correct play, I think we should still see a draw in this game.
Right, but the advantage that black had previously, the two bishops, has evaporated while their disadvantage of the worst pawn structure has remained.
Very true. Now white is kind of enjoying life. Rook d3, but Kateryna was enjoying life in the previous game, and we know what happened.
That's
So,
right.
of course, yeah, black also has to be careful. I mean, c3 could be rather annoying in some cases, although there is always the a3 square.
Yeah, that's right. So C3, bishop A3, rook A2, rook B3 was hanging. So that's why we weren't winning a piece in that line. But I am a little nervous about this bishop on b4 and its lack of retreating squares. So maybe black will play c4 at the right moment.
Yeah, this bishop is, it's like exiled in a nice island. It's okay, the view is nice, but eventually you kind of want to rejoin society. So maybe c4. Yeah, maybe black should reopen the diagonal for the bishop. Instead, I think Kateryna just trying to get all the pieces off the board. Yeah, now the position is pretty lifeless. If white could play king f1 to h5, and maybe we'd be talking about some chances, but no, this is going to be peace agreement will be signed momentarily, I think.
And why not? Why can't they put their king all the way to h5? You just think that the bishop e1 idea would be too good, right? That would just work. Yeah.
Oh yeah, also bishop. Yeah, so there were just no chances there. They repeat moves, and I think a solid result for Kateryna. That's kind of what you want after you lose a disappointing game. Okay, you hold a draw with black. Now you have white again, and they're going to repeat the line from game one. So I'm very curious who is going to deviate. And it appears, okay, Harika playing this, I think, a little bit differently. She starts with knight g7, knight g6 this time.
But now we do get that really quick d4 in, and gosh, and black compelled to play an early f6. They're really pounding out the moves here. Black managed to castle before having to reckon with something like d5. So I think king h8 again, looking to play f5 later, even though you've already played f6.
Yeah, Harika clearly did her homework. I've seen this type of structure, and I faced it with white. And the problem is you kind of, cross your T's and dot your I's with white. Okay, I got the center, I have my development, but what do you do? What is the plan for white? Black is a very clear plan of preparing f5. You can play bishop d7. But with white, it's hard to decide whether to play d5, because if you close the center, then sometimes you make this f5 push even stronger. If I were Kateryna, I would probably consider getting my knight around to g3 and trying to discourage f5. But she's a very experienced Ruy Lopez player. I'm curious how she handles this position.
I love the way that Harika is playing her openings, though. Just kind of switching it before your opponent gets a chance, right? So she has a lot of little nuances, and she prepared them in advance. I really like it.
Yeah, preparation is very important in even in blitz matches, because it's maybe less important to prepare 40 moves of theory, but at least you want to steer the game into a position that you are comfortable with. Much more important than playing something objectively good. You can play something objectively dubious so long as you've done your homework and your opponent hasn't. And there we see it. Kateryna very clearly saying, I don't want to see this move appear in my lifetime.
Yeah, well, making the move queen e8 certainly makes f5 less desirable, as it opens up lines for not only the bishop on c2, but also the rook on e1, which is why we see the move bishop to g4 played.
Very interesting. H3, bishop takes f3, and suddenly got Harika with such a good understanding of what's going on here. Seeing the board so well, I'll just very quickly show h3 suddenly, boop, and d4 is hanging. Hello. E takes d4, knight takes d4. Thank you very much for the pawn. And this is very hard to deal with because, again, if white pushes d5, then the knight drops back to e7. And again, now f5 becomes much, much stronger because the e-file doesn't really open up with black's e-pawn essentially blocking the rook. So bishop g4, very problematic move for Kateryna to face. And she does play d5 basically because she has no choice.
That's right. She has to protect that pawn. And now, not only are your ideas on tap, but that knight on g6 looks so beautifully poised to play either knight f4 or knight h4. That's why knight e3 was played, pushing at least the bishop back. I suppose bishop h5 would have been met by g4, trapping the bishop. So well-timed knight play there by Kateryna.
This looks like a King's Indian. I mean, this is a very classic King's Indian structure. Of course, there's no fianchetto. Whoa. I'll solve that during the break. I'm definitely not drawing all of those arrows. But there's no King's Indian, bishop on g7, but clearly defined. White is playing on the queen side, trying to go b4 and c5. Black, it's only a matter of time. I think it's time to play f5. No, Dronavalli trying to discourage white from operating on the queen side first. But I'm lobbying for f5.
I love black's position here, though. I mean, in the King's Indian defense, you usually have a bad bishop on g7, and white has a strong dark-squared bishop here. We're left with our good bishop, and white is left with a bad one.
Very true. And knight f4, another excellent move, keeping her options open, queen g6. And at the right moment, black can play a takes b4. And black can also tango on the queen side. The rook can come to a2. Okay, now a big moment. Knight h3 check maybe, and then queen g6, just amassing the pieces on the king side.
That's right. I mean, the knight on h3, beautifully supported by the bishop on d7. I wish I could play bishop a4 somehow and trade off the light squared bishops, but it's no dice. You've got that square totally under lockdown. Okay, look at this move,
Yeah,
knight to
knight
d5. What's up with
d5.
that?
Trying to open up the F file. So in the event of the trade, black opens up the F file, and maybe there's ideas with like knight g6, knight f4, even sacrificing the knight on that square in the future. Of course, white can push h4. In fact, that would probably be my instinct reaction to push h4, try to initiate the trade on f3, and that'll make it much more difficult for black to finally push f5. Knight to d2, very risky move by Kateryna. She's moving her pieces away from the kingside gen. I know I'm a broken record, but f5, maybe the time has come.
It's gonna come. Don't worry. One of these days, she's
Yeah.
she's winding up for
No,
it.
not quite yet. She's just, she's raising the intrigue. But maybe now.
Yes,
No, I
this
feel
is
like
the
she's gonna
time.
go queen g6. She's gonna go queen g6, isn't she? Yes.
This the first time you don't guess that move, she's gonna play it.
It's like you have this piece of candy, but you're saving it and saving it because, once it's gone, you're not gonna have the anticipation.
No, no, no. I'm not saving the candy. It's gone.
Now she's gonna go rook a2, I think.
Yeah, and I don't blame her. It's like the tactics now potentially erupting on both sides. For instance, rook a2, bishop b3, simple move, just threatening the rook. Nope, rook takes d2, and suddenly I've got a killer fork, a royal fork as they call it. But hey, she did play f5 when we least expected it.
Yeah, exactly. Now that we're like, wait a second, now I don't really want to play f5. She's like, okay, let's play f5. But okay, still very, very tempting, I think, the way that she's playing this. Because if there is a trade on, and that was a great line, by the way, Jen, with the rook a2, rook takes d2, rook a2, rook takes d2. I'm not sure what's going on here, but we'll fix the errors during the break. Now we have the trade on f5, and suddenly knight to h3 becomes a very serious threat because the f2 pawn is a long-term weakness.
Yeah, so if after bishop f5, queen f5, do I have time to play knight e4? No, because then you capture and you capture on f2 and I'm just busted. I really want to get that one crucial tempo I need to stick a knight on e4 and stop your position from being so dominant. It's white,
Maybe you can do it immediately, like right here.
right? Because the queen's not yet on the f file. So so it's the same line as before, but your queen's on g6. You don't have time to attack f2.
Exactly. I think this is what she's calculating, but knight e4, there's also rook a2. 45 seconds now for Kateryna, and she hasn't solved any of the problems on the king side. I think the issue started when she dropped her knight back to d2. Now her king is wide open. You called it. And okay, now the blunders come. Knight h3 check, and white simply collapses. Knight h3, knight f2.
Yeah, that's not a pawn you want to lose. It looks like Kateryna, oh boy, two losses with white might be soon on the scoreboard for her. She's going to have to figure out how to deal with this aggressive line of the Roy Lopez that Harika is employing.
I mean, this is just incredible understanding of all of the typical ideas of the line by Harika. It started with d6 and f6, not afraid to play a very ugly looking move. She understands that the king is very safe on h8, then forcing white to close the center, very patiently amassing her pieces on the king side, using her time well, and now finishing it off with what seems to be a very accurate sequence. Just knight takes f2, and queen h3 is also coming. And Papa is here. I mean, this is just disaster for white's king, I think.
Oh,
Oh, rook a2, even stronger, maybe.
yeah, I mean, it looked like every move was crushing there. What's the threat here? There's too many. Just queen takes f2 would, of course, win a piece. It looks like rook takes d2 should be winning here, but maybe not. Maybe not, because you've got queen takes d2, queen f3, king takes h3. So how do we do
Maybe
things here?
maybe g5 comes to mind, just trying to open up a little bit more real estate on the king side.
Yeah, it looks like a
Yeah,
crushing idea.
no, this
Crushing
is
idea.
over. I mean, white is completely paralyzed. Rook h1. I mean, even queen takes f3 check is possible here.
Oh, that's a nice one. Oh, but knight
Whoa,
f4.
knight
And
f4.
the computer hates that move, but why? Oh, because of rook d1 protecting everything. Now after pawn takes
Rook
h4.
h3, maybe? I mean, it's still terrifying, and white's got 10 seconds, yeah, but practically speaking, it's almost impossible to defend this. Now e4 looks like it
Ooh,
might be winning. e4, queen takes e4, and rook takes d2, I think, might be the line.
a double pin, right? You can't take with the pawn. You can't take with the knight. You can take with the queen, but that does hang rook takes d2, queen takes f4, rook takes d1 in between move. And there it
Exactly.
is, exclam.
Incredible. e4, knight f4 might not have been the most precise, but with 10 seconds on the clock, you're just not going to defend this. Oh, and e3 is brutal. Now the knight is lost. Black is simply up a couple pawns, and the rest is a matter of straightforward technique. Getting the rooks off the board. There's going to be a fork. There's going to be some tactic here for sure.
Does not look pretty right now. Oh, just a simple move, rook to e8. And now
And rook
rook
e5.
e5, protecting the king so beautifully.
Mate, goodbye. D1 queen, or, oh no, rook e1 would be illegal, but D1 queen will do. And another victory with the black pieces.
I showed a problem on Twitter X the other day, and people were saying that under promotion is the only correct move if it also leads to mate.
Oh,
Not
yeah,
so sure
very
about
true. D1 equals knight actually would not be such a bad option there.
that. Okay,
Okay.
and we're repeating this opening, which, as I recall, Harika ended up getting a pretty nice edge in the endgame after Kateryna. We got some kind of bishop g5, bishop takes f6 line, and we got two bishops for Kateryna, but Harika ended up with a really nice position ultimately. So you had pointed out, though, that her bishop g5 was a little unorthodox.
Yeah, let's see if she repeats it. Yeah, she does repeat it, bishop g5. And it makes sense. I mean, she's more than happy to draw every game with the white pieces and win every game with the black pieces, just like the doctor order, just like you're supposed to. But yeah, she's saying another draw, totally fine.
And here it is, very similar line. In fact, the exact same line as we saw before. And you had pointed out you prefer black here, but somehow it didn't go that well because I was able to reroute my knight. Oh, look at that. I got my cat here.
Oh, hello.
She'll have some good suggestions.
I'm sure the whole world showing up to watch her commentary. That's really cute.
Yeah, I am convinced I have the smartest cat in the world. Come at me, cat.
Maybe she can recommend the proper way to play Harika's system against the Ruy Lopez with white. I think Kateryna will take any advice at this point.
Okay, so not putting the bishop on e6 this time, so that we don't have that really quick knight d4 idea. But nonetheless, if we are able to get a knight on f5, how are you going to avoid capturing and then leading to that same opposite colored bishop endgame with just a nice position for white? Well, here's the answer.
Rook e5. Nope. Entry is barred. And the other problem for white, this is what's very annoying about this line, is if you play rook e1, whenever you take on e5, black can rectify the pawn structure with f takes e5. And this really should not be allowed because then black's center pawns start rolling, and then the bishop pair really displays its might. So white with c3 trying to chase this pesky rook off of the fourth rank. Maybe we'll see rook f4, but I would just prefer dropping the rook back to b8.
Yeah, you could get a little bit short on squares on the f4 square. So rook to b8 played. Yeah. We're getting a lot of great reactions to the cat in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Of course. Chat loves that stuff.
So here's why cats are so smart, Danya. It's because what if you think about intelligence not as how smart you are, like absolutely, but how smart you are relative to your brain. And I feel like cats, compared to how tiny their heads are just like absolutely brilliant.
No, I love cats. I mean, I'm pretty agnostic about the dog-cat debate. I mean, I like dogs too, but I have a very special place in my heart for cats. They're, my heart melts when I see a cute cat.
So wait, rook g5 here. Computer hates it for some reason.
Ah,
But
it was because of H4,
H4?
maybe? I have no clue, honestly.
Yeah, maybe there was something with H4 and knight F5 right away. But in any case, king H2, natural move, potentially preparing F4 to, protect the knight on G3 and block out all the nasty business.
F4 is a massive threat. F4, rook G7, and then knight H5. That is actually beautiful geometry. The rook is
Oh,
simply trapped in that line. Maybe black should move her king in order to vacate an escape square for the rook. Instead, she just puts her bishop on F4. Because
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay. So,
and
but now,
suddenly white is a little paralyzed. Hmm.
oh, because if we play H4, then you can just play something like rook G4, and suddenly it's quite annoying. You're going to lose that H4 pawn. So king H1, we just came from G1. So we did a little triangulation, Danya. King
Yeah, king
H1.
exactly. And now bishop G3, F G3, rook G3 opens up the F pawn. You definitely don't want to do that. So the position remains approximately dynamically balanced, but black also has to be very, very careful because if you play rook E5 and you say, okay, let's get back to the center, then suddenly you walk into knight E2 and you lose because bishop G5 walks into a fork. So black has to tread very, very carefully. Maybe it's time to move the bishop back to D6.
Yeah, yeah, really nice move there by king H1. Not what you would expect, but makes a lot of sense. So Harika
Okay.
just really alert and creative in this match so far.
Let's dance together, says Kateryna. King H1, King H8. Very nice idea. Rook drops back to G8 and potentially moves back to the open file on E8. A lot of maneuvering here.
But now we got our knight onto D4. Okay, another way. Same idea, different square. We want to capitalize on the F5 square and get you to trade one of your minors so that we're left with that little edge.
Man, every time it feels like, a piece is moved away from the center. Black plays a move on the king side, and now white's going to drop. But now knight E2 runs into rook E3. There's this very soft square on E3. And this is why I don't love these types of positions for white. You're lacking a dark squared bishop. You're constantly suffering on the dark squares.
Yeah, and the problem with knight F5 is, first of all, we have to reckon with rook takes D3. Not sure how good it is because there is knight takes D6. But even if that
Mhm.
doesn't work, just bishop takes F5 followed by rook G8 is kind of annoying.
Exactly. Exactly. And C3 is going to be weak. F4. If
Yeah.
you play bishop F5, maybe just bishop E8. No trade. It's on the board. But maybe now, okay, C4. Very committal. But if C5, the knight drops back to E2 with tempo. And black loses the D5 pawn. So Harika doing a great job here of managing the complications thus far.
What about bishop C5 instead of pawn to C5? Let's see.
Bishop
It doesn't make
C5 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't win it. It doesn't win anything, right? Because the rook on D1 is protecting on D4. But I do want to get my bishop out of the line of fire. She does
It's
it.
on the board. Very good call. Okay, so CD, simply CD. And white has to find a place for her knight. Okay, CD is on the board. Black recaptures. And again, knight E2 runs into rook E3. And that bishop on E8 is not going to stay there forever. Once it has its coffee, it might move back even to B5 at some point. Rook F3 by Harika, another good move. I like it. Getting rid of black's strongest piece. And the position remains about equal. Don't play bishop C6 because there was rook C1 winning the bishop.
Ooh, yeah, a little unexpected skewer. But Katerina was alert, saw that one. It looks like you got a poll. Cats won over dogs. Yeah, of course. Chess players love cats.
Totally true. Actually, that is 100% true in my experience. Okay, now time for the kings to join the action. A5, preparing to break apart white's queenside pawn chain. Both, very high level games so far, but something's going to happen eventually, Jen. Eventually the sides are going to get down on the clock. I think we're going to see some meat on the bone in this game. Someone's going to flinch first.
I mean, it has been so well played so far. It's hard to predict a blunder, but you're right. I mean, ultimately, this becomes a bullet game. And we see the move bishop to king to G4,
Ooh,
rather.
okay. But now rook B8, rook B4. And if you're Kateryna, don't get yourself mated there on the king side, although it's hard to envision a potential mating net. I think king h5 is safe. Okay, rook d3. Ah, very nice. Rook before knight will drop back to c2. Another accurate move.
And then she'll play king h5. But don't worry too much about king h5 because you always have king g7. So it's not really too alarming at the moment.
Agreed. And bishop takes d4 is probably a draw. Rook takes d4. Total liquidation. Black takes on b3. White takes on d5. Yeah. Kateryna sees no need for adventures. Black just puts her king on g7. And even though visually Black's pawn structure is uglier, it's impossible to attack any of the pawns. Bishop f3 almost mate, but not quite. White has h4.
Yeah, I'm trying to. How do we make that mate? Oh, no, it's hard to make it mate.
Yeah, g7, g5, but unfortunately there's no g7 pawn. Bishop e5, very alert. Very alert because bishop e6 was an issue.
All right, what do you think now? Now you're predicting a draw, right, Danya?
Now it's a draw, I think, yeah. Unless someone mouse slips or blunders a bishop, but... Oh, rook a3 maybe there, but Black had rook c5.
Yeah, and we see they're going to a draw by repetition. What is the most common cat chess name? I feel like I know a lot of Benoni's. I've heard multiple pets named Benoni.
I know a Najdorf.
Yes, Najdorf. Yes, that's a good one.
Najdorf, Benoni. A King's Indian, but that's 2 words. I don't know if you want to name your cat with a 2-word name. But at the halftime break of the 5+1 segment, a 2-point lead. I wonder if Harika's a cat person.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, we're going to be back and see if Kateryna can come back in the 5-1.
Incredibly well-played match so far. Harika winning both of her games with the black pieces. Kateryna has some work to do. Before we go on break, a quick reminder for those watching and joining us on this early Tuesday morning that the Champions Chess Tour finals are almost here. All year, hundreds of the world's elite have been fighting for just 8 coveted seats at the live finals in Toronto, Canada. And now our 8 finalists aim their sights higher to the 2023 Champions Chess Tour title. Join us for the 2023 CCT finals beginning December 9th. To learn more, use !CCT in the chat, and we will learn more about this awesome Women's Speed Chess Championship semifinal on the other side of this short break.
And Carlitos opens with a perfect serve, pawn to d4. Black returns with a nice forehand to e6. Ouch, that piece just got captured at 127 miles per hour. Amazing! That's another 3 points for Alcaraz. Oh no, that's an unforced error. It's a match point. Alcaraz winds up for the move. It's game, set, and checkmate.
Bobby! I've been looking for you everywhere. What are you doing, man?
Danny, I'm selling the course.
For what?
I'm selling the Chessable course.
With a sign?
I know the cops around here, it's okay. And someone even came up to me and they were interested.
Get in the car. Get in the car. We're gonna figure something else out. All right, yeah, just put the sign in the back. Can't just be flipping signs on corners, man. Dude, last time I spun a sign here, I got arrested.
Yeah, but Danny, that's because you have a history. They did a background check on you.
I thought we weren't gonna talk about that.
It's out and open now.
I gotta get out of here. Get back to your sign. Bob, what are you doing, man?
Danny, the cops are after me. Tell them I went that way.
You went that way, officer. That way. Nothing, yep.
Have a friend or family member who loves chess? Gift them a Chess.com membership today and see them take their game to the next level. You can choose a gold, platinum, or diamond membership for 1 month or 1 year. Want your gift to arrive on your friend's birthday or on a holiday? Gifts can be scheduled to arrive up to 90 days in the future. All premium plans include an ad-free experience, unlimited puzzles and lessons, and unlock all bots. Go platinum to add unlimited game review or diamond to unlock insights and coach explanations. Give the gift of chess today.
Welcome back to the Julius Baer Women's Speed Chess Championship, where Dronavalli Harika leads Kateryna Lagno with a score of 3-1. Dronavalli is no stranger to excellent performances at the WSCC. In 2021, she reached the finals. It was a very close finals match against Yifan, which she only lost by 2 points. Jen, that SCC pedigree is so important. It gives the player confidence. If you did it once, you know you can do it again.
Yeah, I mean, she's just playing fantastically. So well prepared in openings, Danya. And I honestly think this is going to continue through the match. I think she's going to keep Kateryna guessing and switch it up a couple more times. But will Kateryna find her flow and strike back? What do you think?
Well, it really depends on, I think, a specific issue of the opening. Kateryna has gotten out-prepared and out-muscled in this Ruy Lopez line. So I'm curious, will Kateryna maybe switch to an Italian, or did she use that break, as some players do during these matches, to quickly look up a line, quickly patch something up? You basically just want to steer things in a different direction. You don't want to keep repeating a line that's bringing you a lot of discomfort. So let's see how Kateryna is going to approach this. She's got the second half of the 5+1 portion. She was down 2 points in her previous match, so I'm sure she's not going to overreact or panic.
Are they allowed to memorize good moves for the opening? We get in the chat. Yes, that is part of the game. Well, she's got some kind of concoction there, Danya. It looks like some kind of elixir.
Yeah, man, coffee, tea, you never know.
Well, I know what you're drinking. You're drinking coffee, right?
Coffee, water. I mean, there's usually an average of 3 beverages on my desk, especially in these early morning matches. You know, I need a little pick-me-up.
You're such a chess player, such a chess grandmaster thing to call 9 a.m. early, right?
Oh, I mean, I even call noon early. Anything before basically 3 p.m. is early in chess vocabulary. 1 p.m. round. Oh, gosh, how am I going to make that? 1 p.m. round. Meanwhile, my brother gets up for work at 6, and I'm complaining about a 1 p.m. round.
But you work late. I get it. Chess players always thinking about the game, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Very typical. My brother is exactly the same way, Greg Shahadi. Not a morning person. Has there been a large-scale study of whether chess players are morning people or night people? We don't need to do the study. We know the answer. And here we have it, another Roy. But who will deviate first?
And Harika playing some mind, as Peter Lecko would say, hang on a second, some mind games. Knight g7. I think Dronavalli anticipated that Kateryna probably looked up the a6 bishop c5 line during the break, and she has prepared a second sideline, the Kozio system, where black quickly gets the knight to g6. So kind of similar to what she played previously, but in this line, typically the bishop comes out to e7.
Right. All very, very clever preparation, because she's just like switching things up a little, but it's still within the same hemisphere. So she's able to kind of like trot out the plans quickly. I just love the way that Harika has prepared for this this black side against Kateryna. But that said, okay, very quick d4 here. And, we've often said that knights on g6 are bad, right? Who was it who first said that? Bent Larson, because you can just play h4, h5.
Yeah,
so
h4, h5, and g3 to restrict the knight, precisely.
Yeah, and same thing with knights on the the third knight square, right? As you used to call it in descriptive notation. So b6, b3, g3, g6, often not the best square, especially when you don't have that black pawn on e5 to anchor the knight to a potential f4 square.
Exactly, as she did in the previous black game, where the knight actually played a huge role in black's victory. But this time we have a fundamentally different structure. Okay, d5, nice tactics. E takes d5, black can recapture with the queen, but also very risky for black as long as the king remains in the center. So probably black should prioritize castling. Maybe d takes c4, knight takes c4, castles kingside. White might push that isolated pawn up to d5. So I think we're going to get a very tactical middle game. This is more Kateryna style. I think she's managed to steer the game in a more preferable direction, but objectively, black is very solid here.
Oh yeah, very exciting game here. As I'm hoping that at some point I can get a knight to g5, look for some kind of mating ideas. As you're right, Kateryna, the positions were so close. She didn't quite have her cup of tea. And well, maybe she'll get it this game as she's played the move d5. Okay. So what now for black? Knight c to e7?
Yeah, the decision is between knight c to e7 or knight c to e5. Good call. Knight c to e7, targeting the pawn. Bishop g5 is going to be met with f6. Maybe bishop c4. Or I would consider throwing in a3. Yeah, bishop c4 on the board. Black can play bishop g4 with this nasty idea of bishop takes f3 and knight e5.
Okay, yeah, I like that idea. All right. Because, I was also thinking about hopping my own knight into g5 at the right moment. So this is just a really nice move here, bishop g4. Okay, what to do now? Can we stick our other knight on g5?
Yeah, knight eg5 and h3 maybe can be considered. With some very interesting complications actually in that line. If black, okay, a3 first. But here, black can even respond with knight e5, believe it or not, because that counterattacks the bishop on c4. So Harika doesn't have to move this bishop away at all. Maybe she will. Yeah, she does. Bishop a5. But now maybe white can expand b4 and bishop b2.
Oh, I like this. Bishop b2, gorgeous long diagonal. As now your knight e5 idea no longer playable because we just take it off with the bishop.
Exactly. I feel like this is a little bit too cooperative by Harika. On the other hand, she now has access to the f4 square. Or h4, knight h4.
Knight h4. This position is just, gosh, it's screaming tactics. But where are they? Okay, queen d3. No, she's just allowing these doubled pawns. So she's just saying knight takes f3, pawn takes f3, and maybe that king will slide over to h1 and rook g1 with the bishop on b2. And hey, take my double pawns and I'll use them to mate you.
Exactly. That's such an instructive point for newer players who are typically very afraid, as one should be, of this pawn structure. But as you correctly point out, especially in conjunction with his bishop on b2, suddenly white can develop decisive pressure on g7. And we're about to find out, is black going to be able to, for example, get a queen to h3, or is white's attack on the g-file going to prevail? I should point out, though, black has a very important defensive resource in the form of knight e to g6, just sticking a paperweight on the g-file and making it very difficult for white to attack down that file.
But what about moves just like queen c3, tickling you on... Well, it has been played. And note that if you play f6, I have d6 check.
But bishop d4.
Oh my God, what a move.
Devastating. And that wins on the spot because the threat of queen h3 is unstoppable. Bishop d4 is going to end it if Harika finds it.
Yes. Look at her. Look at her face. She sees something. I think she sees it.
The problem is that there's a mate. You have no other. Oops, sorry. That was not played. My bad.
Oh, God. Okay.
No. That did not happen. The terrible thing for Kateryna, there's no other moves because knight f5 runs into knight f6.
So bishop d4, if queen takes d4, knight takes f3, winning the queen. If queen to b3, the only other square that holds on to f3, you say you just have queen to h3, and the mating threat is unstoppable.
She missed it.
She missed it.
That was a big dodge. And Kateryna even has queen takes g7 now. White now has incredible tactics of her own with queen takes g7 and knight f6, I think, transitioning into a winning endgame.
Okay. Is that the best, though? Do we have knight f6 right away?
Knight f6 right away? I thought so, but maybe it runs into this old bishop d4 idea at the right moment.
Right. So I'm threatening checkmate, but you interpose, and yeah, exactly. That could actually come back to bite me. So, okay, I like your idea. Queen takes g7, knight f6 check, king h8, knight takes d7. And at the end of the day, we're up a pawn, but we also have just that slashing bishop on b2.
And that is the biggest problem. This old king h1, rook g1 idea is going to be devastating. And, okay, knight c5. Kateryna goes the other direction. And now, again, takes, and knight d4, I think, is once again a super nasty idea, once again involving the d4 square.
And this is why we have two knights, Danya. You can take one and we fork you with the other.
Exactly. One to checkmate you on the king side, one to clog up the diagonal on the other side of the board. But 1 minute now for Harika, and maybe she's not... Okay, now she finds the harder tactic involving the d4 square. But this is less convincing because queen h3, rook g1, and white is not checkmated just yet.
Oh, so an immediate king h1. Nicely done. Kateryna was ready for this move, knight d4. Big time advantage for Kateryna. So even though we're liking Harika's position, she is going down to under 45 seconds. And she's probably... what else? She's probably calculating knight h takes f3 as well. Ooh, but she's played queen to f5, and for some reason the computer hates this move. Not sure why. Queen takes d4, queen f3 is mating. So why is this so bad?
Maybe just rook g1, because if Harika wants to trade queens, that doesn't... Okay, rook g1 is... I would be shocked if a human didn't play it. Queen takes f3, so Harika trying to get the queens off the board, but I think forgetting that even in the endgame, her knights are tangled up. They're under fire, and they have nowhere to go, because if the knight drops back to f5, I think there's simply bishop d3. There's also rook f4. Black is going to lose material here.
Really nice. Those knights, they protect each other. It was really dazzling when we were winning queens. But now that we're in an endgame, it's devastating as we're about to go down a knight. I like your simple move, rook. You were mentioning rook to f4. That looks really good.
Yeah, as does bishop d3. Okay, rook f4 on the board. And maybe the other... now bishop d3. Fantastic. And bishop takes f5, and the rook takes f5. Beautiful.
Oh, there it is. Rook takes f5.
Amazing. I'll put this on the board really quickly. GF, rook g1 mate, even with no queens on the board. And it's actually black who gets mated on the g file. That is what ultimately will likely decide the game.
It's an elegant example, that final mate, of the times where a bishop is stronger than a rook, right? And a lot of times it's in these situations where you dominate the entire file. I mean, the entire diagonal. See, I said file. It felt like a file.
But that is a massive turnaround, not just in this game, but in this match. Because if she had found bishop d4, that was a 3-point lead right there. And that would have been 3 out of 3 with the black pieces. Now, this gives Kateryna a massive amount of confidence. And it's only a 1-point match.
You know, we had some debate in the chat over how hard bishop d4 was to find. Somebody said it's so tough. Somebody said they're 1200 and they saw it right away. You know, it's so hard to judge. But I think one of the things is when your opponent is threatening checkmate, Danya, sometimes you're thinking a little more defensively, right? And you miss that tactical counter blow.
That's exactly right. It really comes out of nowhere. And she took her time, but she has to move on. And let's see, what is the result of this next opening? Again, Kateryna very well prepared to the black pieces. And trying to get her other knight, I think, to d4, but giving up the bishop pair early.
But that's the cool thing about chess. It's always possible for somebody in the chat who's way lower rated than the players playing to see something that they didn't see. But it's the stringing together of the openings and the harmony that is so hard for players of a lower level to do. But they can find better moves sometimes, and that's what we love about it.
That's very true. It makes it exciting to watch. You feel like you can participate in the unfolding of the narrative. You feel like you can, in a particular moment, you feel good about yourself, and that's a great thing. It gives people watching a lot of confidence. Okay, I think now probably black should take the opportunity to eliminate the bishop pair. If you allow white's bishop to slink back to a2, then you'll have problems on the light squares later. Good decision by Kateryna. Okay, maybe c3, queen b3 was a nasty opportunity, but instead Harika completes her development.
Yeah, you can see she does not want to get into time pressure again. As she's played bishop to e3, the chat saying it's just luck when you find a move that they didn't find. Hey, no, it's not just luck. There's not that much luck in chess. Okay, we've got knight versus bishop here. And it seems like a type of position where the knight could prove supreme.
Yeah, potentially this bishop will have to find a better home. Maybe it can make itself useful on c5. Especially because if white plays c3 eventually, you want to clamp down on the d4 square so that white doesn't break through in the center. Okay, hard to say so far who's better. Let's see how this game unfolds. a5 maybe preparing rook a4. Black drops back to d5, offering what would be a very favorable queen trade because of the pawn structure transformation. I think we're going to see something like queen f5 or queen e2 maybe from Harika. Yeah, queen f5.
Yeah, we don't want to have that we've worked so hard. Harika has worked very hard to cement that knight on c4, so she doesn't want to just throw it away with something like queen takes d5.
Very true. Now the bishop does in fact come out to c5. The position probably about equal, objectively.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I feel like maybe white's moves are a little bit harder to come up with now. Like I feel like I don't know exactly what to do with white anymore. I put my pawn on a5 to kind of maximize things a little. Yeah, and I can't really play c3 because my d pawn is hanging. I feel a bit at a loss. Okay, so rook e4.
Rook e4, very bold move. Potentially with some violent designs on the king side. Although you just don't have enough fuel, I think, to really create problems for black. Rook h4 can be met with g6. White has to be very, very careful not to get carried away on the king side. Maybe, yeah, rook a1. Very mature decision. And
I like that because I was a little worried.
b5
Yeah.
with black.
b5 possible, g6 and f5 could even come into the position. So yeah, it is important for white to get those rooks lined up.
Yeah, but you're totally right. Actually, g6, white's queen does not have a lot of squares because queen g4 runs into f5 with the fork. And maybe queen f3 also, there is f5. Instead, queen drops back to d7. Very reasonable move. Queen trade is probably fine for black here. Okay, queens are off.
Okay, all right. So with the queens off, it's looking, of course, more balanced, as there's things we don't have to worry about anymore. Less clutter with the ideas of f5. I think what you mentioned earlier about the move b5 for black, is that viable? Because that will add a little bit of an imbalance, right? With a potential fight over the a file.
Yeah, I actually really like b5. I think it sets your pawns in motion, and eventually if you can kick this knight away from c4, then you're very, very happy. Also, if you can induce c3 under the right circumstances, you're happy. But maybe c3 should be considered here tactically. c3, bishop c5. You can try to force the bishop to e7, and then d3, d4 will be possible because that bishop will hang if black takes the pawn. But instead, white kind of adopting a holding pattern with rook back to e2, maybe trying to take the sting out of the move f5.
Yeah, and now I'm not as sure about b5 because I kind of wanted to put my rook on a7 as soon as I played it. So yeah, there's a different idea for black now. Playing bishop b4, threatening just to fork the pawn. So rook a1, anticipating that, quickly played by Harika. They're both playing very fast this game.
Yeah, there's plenty of time on the clock. Still, the position is very locked up. Not much is happening yet. But again, the question is which side is gonna try to take active measures first, or are they just going to continue, making neutral moves? This is sometimes how games can end in a repetition. But I think Harika is going to continue to try g3, king g2, h4. Both sides making surface level improvements to their position. Yeah, there we go. Completing the architectural design on the king side, as my coach would say.
Yeah, just nicely and quickly done. It's funny, they're playing so well this game, like so few mistakes, so accurate. And it's and then last round we had such a wild battle where there was like so many tactics for both sides. So of course there were some mistakes, and it's kind of just the nature of Blitz, isn't it? That if you play a more wild tactical game, of course there's going to be more mistakes for both sides.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Here, the price of a move isn't that high. There's, maybe 4 or 5 options on every move that keeps the evaluation. And the player's doing a great job of keeping everything secured. But we already know from the very first game that tactics can spring out of nowhere, particularly when one side has a knight. So as the clocks continue to dwindle very, very slowly, things might ultimately end up heating up. a6, okay. Sensible. Freezing the pawn on a5. Okay. Rook e4, offering a trade. But I would probably drop the rook back to d7. I would not trade in this particular version, because the rook on b5 is suddenly going to get stranded.
Yeah, and we have to worry about somehow the d file. If we can't contest the d file, then it could be very strong for white. So rook e4, not a trade that we think Kateryna is going to go for, that Lagno is going to go for. But that is one thing that I think everybody watching in the chat who's trying to get better while they watch this. Thanks for joining us. Think about trades. Would you take that trade? Right? And instead, they're actually going for a rep or perp.
And
repetition.
Kateryna sort of declines the repetition. She puts her rook. Okay, now she says, all right,
yeah,
let's get back to the draw. And a very sensible result. I mean, the position very locked up. There's no sense for either player to do anything drastic. And Harika maintains her 1-point lead. Again, Ruy Lopez.
And another Cozio.
Side, yes, back to knight g7.
Oh, but this was a line that Kateryna got in a really thrilling, exciting position. Okay, let's see if we repeat that.
Yeah, it's actually interesting to me that Harika is deviating from the bishop c5 line, which won her several games, because I at least would play it once to just see what my opponent has prepared during the break. I mean, maybe Kateryna asked, this other GM who might be in her house right now, I'm not going to say any names, also pretty good Ruy Lopez player, maybe she looked up games, but at least I would test out and see what horrible things she has in wait. Instead, Harika going for a completely different type of position. Very interesting. And they have actually the same exact line on the board. Or very, very similar.
And then we saw I think maybe d5 came before a3 in the last game, but extremely similar and could transpose.
Yeah. And now a3. Yeah, we remember that in that version, White's bishop was on c4. So there were some minor changes. Maybe White can throw an h3 to prevent the move bishop g4. Maybe White can play bishop e3. Of course, okay, d5. Very ambitious once again by Kateryna. I like it. Bishop f4. Now White is slightly better here.
Yeah, just not giving her time to play that bishop g4 move. So getting rid of one of the knights. Okay, but the bishop on b5 isn't promising at the moment. So it can't quite relocate to d3 now because the d5 pawn is hanging. So it starts with queen f3.
Okay, trade in bishop d6. Very nice positional chess by Harika. Just trading off all the active pieces. Eventually, d5 is going to be a liability in the future when more pieces come off the board. And I think she's mostly solved her opening problems as Dronavalli.
I think she'll just move the bishop on b5 here and say, like, do you want to take on g3 yourself? And if she takes on g3, do you think that White could consider taking with the f pawn, or do you think she'll just take with the more pedestrian h pawn?
No, absolutely. That's a great point. F takes g3 would be up her alley. just trying to open up some pressure on f7. I would definitely consider that in a blitz game. And it's something that black has to factor in. I think Harika is going to keep the tension. b5, very committal move, because now you're creating a weakness on c6. Maybe in the future, white could try to double rooks on the c file. But all of that is in the distant future, because black is also going to bring her queen out to f6. I really like the way that Harika has handled the last couple moves of the middle game.
Yeah, so she's avoiding, and that's something you see again. I'm encouraging you all at home to think about, would I exchange, would I not? Because it's something that can go unnoticed when you're looking at the games of elites, right? So I think a lot of players have already played bishop takes g3, but notice Harika avoiding it because it doesn't give her any advantage, right? It actually gives Kateryna this lovely choice to take with the h pawn or the f pawn, and so she's just keeping that tension.
And now she would have definitely taken to the f-pawn with the queen and the rook very nicely combining to pressure f7. So queen e7, contesting the e-file, preventing rook e1, which would run into queen takes e1. Maybe, no, h3 blunders a piece. Actually, very easy blunder to make, because this queen e3 forks. Bishop on b3 is undefended, and we know that loose pieces drop off. Okay, great move, rook c3. Controlling important squares on the third rank.
Love that move. And also rook e3, protecting that bishop that you mentioned was loose. Really nicely played by Kateryna Lagno. In the chat, we hear somebody saying that they would love to see Ho Yifan in the final because they don't see her enough. Well, you're in luck. She is in the final. And right now, for everyone just joining us, we are crowning the co-finalists. Will it be Kateryna Lagno or Harika Dronavalli? Otherwise, a very exciting final match is being set up right now.
Very true. And nothing has been decided. We have about 17 minutes to go in the initial 5+1 segment. There's still the 3+1 and, of course, the bullet. My favorite segment, not going to lie about that, to look forward to. But a lot of chess yet to be played. Don't go anywhere. Very intriguing match between two radically different styles and approaches. Okay, the queen is nicely sitting on e2. But what exactly is it doing there? What is going to be the follow-up? Maybe just rook a d8. Maybe just tread water for now and see how white positions her pieces.
Well, what if rook f3? How are you defending your pawn on f7 for the moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. Maybe rook up to e7. But then my queen... Okay, rook a b8. Huh. So maybe preparing b4. But yeah, rook f3 definitely a possibility here as well.
Rook f3, rook e7 is what you have in mind for the moment. Okay. And how about if I play... I wonder if I just play h4 at some point. Oh, yeah, actually, you would just put an arrow there, right? But you played b4 instead.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Bent Larsen idea, right? This is why knights on g6 can be vulnerable, this h4, h5 idea. But instead, b4 freezing the queen side, preventing black from opening things up with b4. And making the rook on b8 look very, very awkward.
Yeah, I like Lagno's position here, and I like her handling of the clock as well. She does have that over a minute edge right now on Harika, as rook to b6 has been played. And for some reason, it looks like this move is not favored. I wonder what's going on. You know, rook f3, rook e7 still seems plausible, but now your back rank is open, right? So we would have the idea of queen c8 check if we wanted.
Yeah, back rank is kind of burning now. Queen c8, rook e8. For now, black is holding, but this is a very flimsy mechanism because bishop d3 could dislodge the queen, and then queen c8 could be a lot scarier.
But there's other ideas in the position as well, and she has played rook f3.
Black should play queen e7.
Queen to e7, okay. Just get out of dodge.
Yeah, just get this queen away from, enemy territory, because rook e7, yeah, bishop d3. This is, I think, what Kateryna is relying on. Rook f8, also very sensible move, just making sure that the back rank is also protected. White is better. White is in the driver's seat. I would still very seriously consider the move h4 right now. Very hard to stop h5.
Exactly. And honestly, rook f8 takes away the f8 square for the knight, which would be one way for you to protect against that h4, h5 idea.
Yep.
Still in play. h4 is still in play. You can't take on h4 because queen takes h7 is an instant mate.
Absolutely. Yeah, h4, very, very tempting. Okay, you could throw in bishop d3, but the black queen is going to situate itself on d4 potentially. So I'm not necessarily sure that I want to shake the hornet's nest any further. Okay, bishop to b3. Ah, queen d4, rook d1. I'm curious, what is the end point of this chase? What is it going to end with? A queen trade, or is black going to go to b2? Yep. And the chase continues. Maybe bishop back to c2 now. And then h4. Get back to our idea.
Ah, yes. Okay, so we were chasing the queen around, and now our bishop not on that crucial diagonal anymore. And the times now have been equalized, as Lagno's definitely burned some clock here in the last minute.
You can tell Kateryna's thinking, man, how much I would love to play bishop b3 takes d5 right now. Okay, back to c2.
Self-capture chess. That was one of those variants that have been experimented with, where you can capture your own pieces. Now, it's not something you use too often, but you certainly pointed out an opportunity.
I'm good at blundering. I'm so good at blundering my own pieces. I think I'd be pretty good at this game, actually. I seem to be much better at capturing or giving away my own pieces than capturing my opponents. Okay, finally we have a trade on g3. So amazing how long the bishops were on d6 and g3. It feels like forever, but now the tension has been slightly reduced. White remains in the driver's seat. The queen on b2, very much stranded for the time being.
Yeah, you got to watch out for that queen. Rook to b1 is really is a threat, right? So that's why rook f6 was played, so that now we have the f6 square open. Also some knight e5 ideas to try to keep some tactical balance here. But the problem right now is that bishop c2 is lined up for the checkmate, so we can't do it right now. We need the bishop to be on the b3 square to play knight e5.
I'm smelling a time scramble in this game. Queen c3, very nice move. Suddenly the c7 pawn, we didn't think about that pawn, but suddenly that pawn is under huge fire. Rook d8.
Rook c8, there was bishop f5. So there was no
now
time.
It takes.
She had to do this.
And finally the d pawn will disappear.
And this is where that knight f8 idea comes into play, right? But we can win a pawn, right? After rook c8 check, knight f8, we can play bishop takes h7 check. But
very pretty.
I'm sure you're gonna get a pawn back somehow on a3, right?
So instead she goes after the a pawn and also trying to keep her bishop, because b5 is also going to be a target. Technically this should be winning for white. I mean, 20 seconds for Harika. Her best bet is to activate her knight, and that's exactly what she does. Also very easy to miss mate here. Bishop e4 would blunder checkmate to rook d1 and knight g4. So Kateryna has to be on her toes here. I would throw in the move f3, and she does. Very good. But still a game. Knight c4.
That was an important pattern that you spotted quite quickly, because it wasn't like mate in one, that the king was running up to h4 and you were giving us mate. So,
yeah, it was this like mate in several. Knight g4, knight takes f2. Now the knight is trying to come into e3. 20 seconds for both players. a4, trade, knight e3. This might end in a draw. Black might have developed enough counterplay here to counterbalance the role of the b pawn. Also, black could win this game with rook d4. And white's pawns might start falling.
And there's mating ideas coming up again with the knight on g4. Bishop f3, stopping rook d1 and attacking the knight on g4.
Back to e3, rook a3, chasing the knight. Man, that knight is so shifty in this type of position. b5, black is going to prevent the pawn from moving from behind rook b2. And now it's black in the driver's seat after knight d4.
And we're getting a preview of the bullet.
Okay, but now Kateryna has to hold this with just seconds on her clock. This is a draw, of course, but in time pressure, it's so easy to either blunder a pawn or blunder mate or let black's king through. Let's see how Harika pushes this. Oh, or blunder the rook. Look at this.
Yes, because they might. You want to be careful about pre-moving here, right?
Typical scenario. You put the rook on the wrong file. We've seen this before. Rook a6, for example, here would be a smart rook b1. Yep.
Well, thank God for the 1 second increment, Anya.
Yeah, Kateryna was not born yesterday.
And actually, in some sense, this does help her make very, very quick moves. So I don't feel like we're going to see her losing on time here.
Probably not. I think, but Harika is trying to win this on the board. Rook f3 now, tried to go h4, but these lateral checks are so annoying. Oh, and she found a way to force a draw. Beautiful. Simply rook h8. Black is unable to escape the checks.
That's right, because king f5 would allow rook f8 check. And yeah, it would have ended up becoming a dead draw there. So nicely done by Kateryna Lagno. I mean, I said this was going to be a preview of the bullet, Danya, and I can say we're going to have a good bullet because that was a well-played endgame on 10 seconds each.
Yeah, very nicely done at the end by Kateryna. Of course, she's going to be disappointed because going into the endgame, she had every chance to win the game, but Harika immediately activated her knight and sensed the moment. Okay, so this is maybe will be the last game of the 5-minute portion. We might get 2 more games in. We'll see. And they keep repeating this 4-knight scotch. Slight deviation, bishop to e6 by Kateryna, leaving the possibility to play c7, c5 in one go. But that could be also very, very risky because black could overextend herself in the center.
So I think this is the first line of the scotch where we don't see that early bishop g5 by white.
We might see it now, but we might also see bishop coming out to f4, or even bishop to c4 is possible.
Bishop c4, just pressuring that pawn on d5 and asking black how you're going to continue your development. Because then bishop g5 could come in and can get kind of nasty. None of the above, knight e2. Now c4 here would allow bishop take c4. So not something that white has to worry about.
Exactly. Well spotted. This is an important x-ray against the queen. And white is just trying to massage black's center a little bit with knight c3 to e2 to f4. Very comfortable position in the early going here for white. I think this is easier to play for Harika.
Indeed, and knight d7. So no longer do we have that pin on the d file, but knight f4 puts pressure both on e6 and d5.
And the issue now is knight e5 runs into this classic tactic. Bishop takes h7, drawing out the king, and queen h5 picking up the knight with interest with an extra pawn. So this is kind of an abortive maneuver, and suddenly black is dealing with a very tender pawn on d5. You might have to go knight b6 here, but that's obviously not what you wanted. Also, then there's like knight takes c6 and queen h5. There's suddenly big problems with your king. Maybe knight back to f6, honestly, is the best move.
Now, what if we, I feel like in this position, if we were to play, knight f6, you called it, Danya.
I'm sorry, bad idea. I'm back to home base.
A good player knows how to admit that they're wrong, right?
Exactly, yeah. My old coach, Gregory Kaidanov, really, he would call this saying sorry. Just, okay, knight d7, up, sorry, back to f6. My mistake, mea culpa.
Yeah, humans are not always good at saying sorry. I feel like computers are good at it because they don't really have the same type of memory.
Yeah, they're remorseless. They don't remember what they've done. To them, it's just, okay, knight d7 to f6. This is what I planned all along. But as a consequence of this, white has complete control over all the key central squares, a bishop pair, and long-term pressure against e6. It's a very unpleasant position for black.
Oh, great position. I'm also eyeing that square on c6, the queen coming to c6. How can black survive this? She's going to have to come up with some great defensive ideas. I mean, queen d6 falls into bishop to f4. Just a great position. What can black do here? Do we have any temporary tactical ideas based on the fact that we're got a little discovery action on the queen on f3? Does knight d5 do anything? I don't think so. Just queen e4.
Queen e4, yeah, queen e4 is very precise because it also hits the e pawn. Okay, bishop d6 trying to get active, but hello, e6 pawn. I think white can just gobble on e6, and this is a disaster happening right now to Kateryna here. Rook takes e6. Maybe she wants queen d7, but then the bishop can come to the rook's assistance on f5. Again, the fundamental problem is that there is no potential for a discovery against the white queen, but instead, for some reason, bishop g5. Very mysterious to me why this pawn was not captured.
Yes, and now e5, the pawn is suddenly safe. I mean, sure, the bishop on d6, you might not like it, but hey, we saved our pawn, and after queen to f5, threatening bishop takes f6. Bishop takes f6, serious threat here because h7 hangs in the end, and there's also queen e6 check. So what should black do now?
Yeah,
G6.
G6 I think is reasonable. Queen e6, king g7. Very scary, but thank you very much. I still have my e-pawn. Okay. Queen e6 also a very committal move because the queen might not be able to get out of there. It's like, the labyrinth. Okay. Very good. King g7, accurate move, not allowing bishop h6. Okay, rook e2. Building up slowly the pressure on e5. We might eventually see some sort of an exchange sacrifice, but I think we're going to see queen c7 from Kateryna, just solidifying her control over the e5 pawn.
So technically rook e8 traps the queen, but of course there's bishop takes f6 check. So that avoids any kind of serious problem there. And then,
but you're right. I think it's a favorable trade for black.
Yeah, I mean we're not losing our queen though. So there's that. But queen c7, now the other rook looking to come to e8. But then bishop takes f6. Yeah, then bishop takes f6 wins, huh?
Big problem. How do you solve this problem? Maybe you go h6 first. Then basically you force white to trade on f6. On the other hand, that weakens the g6 pawn. So things kind of quieting down here a little bit. Although maybe they'll heat back up if white finds a way to make things tactical. I mean, maybe even an exchange sack on e5 should be considered. I would consider it in a blitz game for sure.
Absolutely. Rook takes e5 could be considered. What other types of ideas can we consider here? I feel like my bishop on d3 is not doing quite as much as I would like. I wonder if we can just like blast things open at some point with like b4 and c5 or h4 as is Harika's choice.
Okay, keeping the tension. But queen h3. So she wanted to evacuate her queen. She was sick of the constant problems with the rook coming to e8 or e7. Very sensible. And white maintains a firm grip on the center, knight to h5. Finally, the bishop is able to centralize itself, bishop e4. And if black plays knight f4, we will see a trade and an opposite-colored bishop middle game, which is a lot more exciting than an opposite-colored bishop endgame, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, because these bishops now can hone in on weaknesses, and it's literally like the opposite of a bishops of opposite color endgame, which tend to be drawish. Middle games tend to be quite feisty. And here we see that, hey, white's got the better bishop, but black's got the better majors. So I do think that there's a nice balance here.
Yeah, there's some major pressure on f2, and if white plays f3, then you're creating long-term weaknesses along the dark squares on the king side. You're allowing some bishop e7, bishop h4 maneuvers in the future. So white might seem very comfortable now, but this can blow up potentially in the other direction, and I think that's exactly what's happening. She takes and plays f3, but now the h-file starts to spring a leak. Rook h8, and maybe bishop e7 at the right moment, setting up ideas. Rook h4. Beautiful move.
Idea.
Yeah, and white's rooks are suddenly frozen on the e-file because of rook takes e4. Wow, this is turning around.
But is it going to be enough to hold the balance? Because if I were to play rook g4, you could just swing your queen over, and I don't see a killer breakthrough. The only way to get that killer breakthrough is to improve the bishop on c7, on d6 rather.
There were some tactics there with rook g5 and rook h4. She plays rook h4 immediately, maybe threatening rook g5. Queen takes h4, rook takes g2 check. I'm still lobbying for this bishop e7 move to be thrown in, though.
Okay, but in that line, we do get 2 rooks for the queen, but our king is exposed, so black would be better, but it's not resignable or anything.
No, yeah, that has to be properly evaluated. We're about to find out. Okay, a3, a5, keeping the tension for now is Kateryna. Maybe white will play b3 and just sort of keep passing the hot potato around.
But it does look very compelling, Danya, because rook g5, queen h4, rook g2, king g2, queen h4. We do get, a pawn and it's a weakened king.
I like rook g5. It's a pretty risk-free option. She goes back to f4. Okay. So Harika previously responded to this with the move king to g1, and then they repeated with like rook h4, king f2. This time, rook g1. Can black find a way to break through? Or is Kateryna happy with some sort of a repetition in this final game of the 5+1 segment?
That's right. The clock is out. So this will be the final game as bishop to e7 played.
Excellent. Setting up queen f7 and bishop h4. Huge threat.
So instructive. I love this game for blitz. The classical portion, we're really seeing maneuvering chess, the principle of the worst piece. Black was maximized, but the bishop on d6 was terrible. So Kateryna finds this beautiful idea.
And queen b6, look at the whole board awareness. When white played the move b3, it created a weakness. Now black is using both sides of the board beautifully. Bishop f2 maybe actually works out because the check on d7 can be parried with rook to f7. White loses material. I think bishop, d3. But queen d7, queen takes d3. And Kateryna forgets about this fork. And suddenly, rook d4, the queen has c3 and e3. White is still alive. Check. Another check. Will this turn around yet again?
Could definitely. 24 seconds left.
Mate threat. Don't blunder the mate on h8. And she blunders the check on h8. But what now? The king on g5 is surprisingly safe.
Yeah, what on earth? And now our queen is in capture as well. Is rook e5 check here work? No, I don't think so. Looks like
I guess it's perpetual with rook e5. And maybe just queen g7. Maybe just sit on the position. Uh-oh. Time scramble.
Queen to f8, bishop g3, okay.
Queen e7. Uh-oh. There was rook e6. Rook e6 was winning on the spot. Rook e6.
Rook e6 threatening also rook g6, but they go for the draw.
They go for the repetition. Rook e6 would have ended it. But instead, in the time scramble, totally understandable. White was worse, and white was losing. So Harika says, let me cut my losses. Let me force the draw once I have a chance. That concludes an exhilarating 5-minute portion, Jen.
Wow. Just a fantastic preparation by Harika, but we really saw some great fighting spirit by Kateryna Lagno, because I'm going to tell you, Danya, this score could be a lot bigger than 1 point for Harika.
Absolutely. It could have been a 3-point lead for Harika had she delivered on that bishop d4 chance, but instead, it's a very close match. We're not complaining, and we'll be back with the 3+1 portion on the other side of this break.
Your subscription makes shows like this possible, which is why our Twitch subscribers will never see ads on Chess.com. Connect your Chess.com account and Twitch account at go.chess.com/connectaccounts, and bang, boom, voila, you're done. 100% ad-free bliss forevermore. Whether you're following our events on site or on stream, type the command connect in the chat, and thank you for helping bring these shows to life.
Well, all my projects now somehow are connected with chess, because I qualified for the candidates tournament, and of course I'm looking forward to play it and to prepare for it, and of course, but I'm also a mother of 4 children, and of course it's a huge part of my life, and so like when I don't study chess, I'm busy with my children, and you can imagine it's all day work, let's say. I don't think that it's my husband, no, because well, he supports me, but I would say that I would like to feel, I don't feel it so much, like maybe I expect too much from him, but maybe my children, yes. My youngest son, okay, let's say, because he gets really upset when I lose a game. and he's very, very happy when I win it. But okay, let's say my family. Yes.
Welcome back to the Women's Speed Chess Championship. After losing her first two games as white, Kateryna is still keeping it close, and she only trails by a point. 3.5, 4.5 in Harika's favor is the score. Jen, what are we expecting from what promises to be a really exciting 3+1 section?
I think a really tight match. We've seen Harika better opening preparation, but only a 1-point lead, Danya. And I think that shows that Kateryna is in there and she's fighting. And I mean, that could bode very well for her as the time controls shorten.
Absolutely. I think she got more momentum as the 5-minute section progressed. It wasn't easy to begin with. Incredible opening preparation by Harika, but this is the nature of these matches. You can be in the driver's seat what seems like the whole section, and yet you're only up by a point.
But it does mystify me, Danya, because Harika had such beautiful wins in those first two black games, but beautiful positions out of the opening, rather, in the first two black games. But then she switched to the Cozio, rather, where her openings weren't quite as convincing. So I'm kind of curious to see which way she's going to go in this first game with black.
Me too. I like that choice of beverage by Kateryna. That's Borjomi. It's a very well-known sparkling water brand from Georgia, which is known for its like salty taste. I'm a big fan, so I have it myself during a lot of commentaries. It's supposed to help with hangovers, but you know,
Oh, all right.
It's in case
Can
anybody's looking for
can you get it here in America?
Yeah, definitely. It's sold in like most European delis.
Okay, well, can you pronounce that again? Berjomia?
In Barjom, in like the Russian pronunciations, Barjom, but Barjomi is the proper spelling.
All right. Well, good to know as we approach Thanksgiving and maybe a little turkey hangover. Get some Bergeron.
Yeah, exactly. Just load it up. Yeah.
Well, let's
Make
see.
sure
Let's
the
hold
family has a
judgment until we
bottle.
see the results of this match.
Definitely, we'll be able to pronounce a verdict on Kateryna's beverage choices at the end of it. Okay, here we go. So Kateryna has the white pieces in game one, I believe. Yes. Okay, and a radical opening change. Harika pushes her e-pawn only one square up this time.
Oh, but her openings were so good before. But that's the thing. Like, I think Harika probably thought that Kateryna would assume she'd continue with this, and then she doesn't. So it is a lot of psychological poise going on here as well.
Yeah, in general, I really like Harika's approach to the opening. She keeps varying her lines. Clearly, she prepared a couple of different things for the match, and I think that's a very, very successful strategy. So Kateryna is an advanced French player. That's her main line. We have a typical advanced structure, and Harika actually deviating from the main line where the queen comes to b6 early, and instead, again, she's shown quite a propensity to get her knight onto g6 across several different openings now.
Yeah, exactly. We still have this knight on g6. So Harika does not agree with the idea that the knight on g6 is weak. Now, of course, in these lines, h4, h5 could come into play, but for the moment, that h4 pawn is just takeable because of the three pieces that are looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like hungrily eyed by so many pieces. But okay, so a3 preparing this move b4, I think trying to resolve the tension on the queen side and successfully resolving it, but f6, very typical French move, opening up now the other side of the board. And eventually the knight could come into f4. Black could play queen c7. I actually kind of like Black's position here.
Yeah, this move a3, I see it a lot in the advanced French, right? But I always, sometimes if I get in such positions, I always regret it because then like a knight ends up coming to c4 and I've weakened myself. So it definitely has some pros and cons.
Yeah, definitely. And knight f1, yeah, knight g3, knight h5 is also a very unpleasant idea, dislodging this bishop from f6. So objectively, probably white is still slightly better as the knight doubles back to e7. But white is first to the party because now knight f5 is probably an unfavorable trade for black because the e5 square will be really, really weak as a result.
Yeah, we could even start with bishop f4 and then get her a major piece, a minor piece rather on e5. So I don't think knight f5 will be played. But if you don't play knight f5, is knight h5 something that Harika has to worry about? Well, she's played queen to e8 to prevent that.
She's definitely worried about it. And maybe the queen is coming to g6, although if it reaches g6, it can be chased away with bishop d3. So I agree. Mostly she was trying to prevent knight h5. But okay, rook c1.
b4, a6. Yeah. She doesn't want to see b5 happen. So this all makes sense.
Yeah, queen f7. Okay, black is very solid, but struggling with some weak squares in the center. Maybe h6 will be played, would be my guess. h6, h3. Very common in these positions where both players are just making surface level improvements. But no, knight f5. Very concrete.
Oh, so many tempting options here. Yeah, just bishop to f4 really cementing our dark squares.
Yeah, Kateryna, very, very classical approach to the position, just going after the e5 square. But the problem is black also has this equivalent square on e4. And if you play the move bishop d3, then suddenly you're giving up the d4 pawn. So there are some logistical issues for white here. How to properly take control of the e5 square. Maybe b5 can be considered, trying to chip away at the other end and trying to just get the knight off the board. And she plays it.
So b5 on the board, just again, like looking at this idea of getting that e5 square. Now, we could even consider playing knight to e5 without taking on c6. And then if knight takes e5, rook takes c8, it could be a little awkward. But first, it's black's move. Does black have any tactical ideas here, Danya?
Yeah, knight d4 doesn't quite work out, although it has to be calculated. Knight takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, white can throw in bishop takes d6. Okay, rook e4, very good.
So rook e4. Immediate bishop takes c6.
Bishop e5.
And this is where the time is going to matter more, right? We're in the 3-minute portion. And so it looks like Kateryna has almost a minute edge in this game.
Yeah, and let's remember, she won 7.5 against Priyanka in the 3-minute portion. So this is her time control. I think this is her segment. And this is where she's going to try to stake a claim. And you can see why. She's playing quickly and confidently. She's an excellent 3+0 player. She plays quite a bit on Chess.com. So, you know, she's very, very dangerous in this time control.
Yeah, f3, nice move.
But thank you for the pawn.
Oh, but we got to have something here. Come on. Look at all of our nice play. Our beautiful knight on e5 has got to amount to something, right? Bishop g5 is on the board.
Excellent. But no more knight. But maybe it'll be replaced by a beautiful rook on e5. I would actually take with the pawn here. I think I would take with the pawn and try to get it to e7.
Yeah, because bishop is of opposite color. It's like it doesn't really matter how many pawns you're up. It's about which pawn you're up.
Exactly. Now I think black is fine. Rook e8. You can't really take on f5. Queen a1 check looks way too dangerous. At least to my eye. Maybe you can get away with it. Maybe you can take and go king f2. But yeah, probably things are kind of fizzling out here.
So like queen e1 or something like that, or queen e2. But here's the thing. I mean, it is black who's up a pawn. So potentially white's not that devastated here that the game is likely to be drawn.
Yeah, definitely not. In a time scramble, I would take the side with a better bishop here because eventually white can create some threats against black. Yeah, there's h6, h3. It happened a little bit later than I thought it would, but a draw is by far the most likely result.
Yeah, she's shuffling pieces here. And it's kind of nice from a pre-moving perspective because you know you can put your queen on d7.
Yeah, but Kateryna is going for the win. She declines repetition. She believes that she's got control over the game. There's an f5 pawn. It can be captured. Instead, Kateryna stops the b pawn, which Harika gives away for some reason.
Oh.
And now white is very much playing for a win. But still should be a draw.
Pawn to h5 is played.
Oh. Queen g5, very good. Black is holding on. But what to do now? Maybe a check? f4. Another pawn disappears. Ah, very smart. Forcing the queen trade because queen c7 gives up the d4 pawn. And now it should be a draw. But black still has to be very, very careful here.
Yeah, she has less than 10 seconds. So indeed.
g5.
Trying to trade. But she'll do it. She'll get it.
Some sort of a fortress. And it really helps black that both of these pawns are on light squares because they can both be defended perpetually. Yeah, should be a draw now.
Wow, well done by Harika. That was not easy to save there at the end. You know, this idea of f4 and queen f6 was very, very clever.
Extremely. Okay, now it's just a dead draw. We're going to see some sort of a repetition. Yeah, okay.
But I wasn't that thrilled with the results of her opening, Danya. We really loved her earlier black openings, but in this one, it really seemed like Kateryna got the upper hand.
Yeah, definitely. Kateryna was in the driver's seat throughout the game. She really displayed great understanding of typical French advanced ideas. So I'm curious if Harika is going to repeat this or if she's going to keep cycling through different openings. Are we going to see a Jababa London here?
New opening alert.
Very promising start. And Kateryna thinking whether to play d5. Yep. Okay, Jababa London. Excellent. e3, e6, and knight f3 is the topical line.
And Harika continues to deliver the unexpected, switching up the openings. You know what, Danya? She's going to do it again in the bullet. I think we're going to see like the ready in the bullet. We're going to see a third opening. So E4 in the 5-minute, Jabava London in the 3-minute, and something completely different in the bullet.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, I have no problem with openings getting repeated, but when we get different types of positions, it also makes it more fun to commentate. So bishop d3, of course, I'm biased because I play this opening with white, but she's playing it very, very positionally. Typically, the knight heads for e5 in these types of positions. I think knight e2 is a bit of a more reluctant approach.
What is the idea of putting that knight on e2? We've seen that Harika likes to have her knights on that g3, g6 square. Is that coming into play here as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where she's going. I mean, knight on e2 can't really go to f4. There's a bishop there. Can't go to d4. There's a pawn there. White's pieces are kind of stumbling over themselves so far in the opening. Somehow I think this particular setup will not be repeated. Knight b5, but simply rook c8, covering the c7 square, and the knight can be chased away with a6.
Well, just to go back to classical principles, there is a reason why d4 and knight c3 aren't played that often, right? I mean, well, they used to be played even less frequently, right? That there was this idea, this adage that in C or D pawn openings, you get your pawn on c4 before you put your knight there. And hey, with this maneuver, White managed to do just that anyway.
Yeah, White just spending, all the tempi in the world, but now knight b4 and d takes c4. I think that just wins the pawn.
Yeah, knight b4 looks great. Oh, but
or
she missed
CD
it.
first, but she can play it on the next move, I think, also knight b4, and that's simply a healthy pawn that can even be captured by the rook.
Can we take on d5 here to... No, we can't, because you just take on c3.
What a line. And then White plays CB at the end, but Black has a square. Uh-oh. Wait a second. No, but simply rook takes c4, and this is a disaster for White. This is just a clean center pawn that White is going to be missing here with tempo. Bad.
All right, we like to switch the openings, but not if it turns out like this.
Yeah, this is not great. I mean, the game goes on. White drops her queen back. Okay. You're only, quote unquote, only a pawn up, but Black can also just play bishop e7, quickly develop with castles. It's such an easy position to play for Black. Yeah, bishop d6 is also good. Man.
Looking to tie up the match here is Kateryna Lagno, who's off to a really nice start in this game. But we know Harika does not give up easily. Rook d1 threatening, queen takes rook.
Okay, Kateryna's like, all right, come on. I'm not missing that. Queen c7. Very nice.
You don't expect her to.
Yeah. Nope. Rook c1 castles. And b3, Black can simply drop her rook back to c6. Also, the time situation has been pretty concerning for Harika. She has fallen behind on the clock in both of these first games.
How can she get some play here? Well, she's played rook c1. She's trying to grab that c file. Okay, we can't quite now. Rook c1 allows queen take c1.
Aha, beautiful line. h3, knight e4, rook c1. You can take twice and play rook h1 at the end. Maybe I can show this really quickly.
Yes.
Maybe Kateryna will play it. But
oh, that's a nice one, yeah.
Rook c1, it's a good tactic to know, because even though there's no back rank mate, you think, I'm totally safe. King h2. Nope. Check on h1, giving up the rook. And actually, something similar happened in the game, but she didn't have a knight on e4, so this didn't work out any longer. Instead, she played h6 and dropped her queen back to f8. Also perfectly fine. She keeps her extra pawn and keeps excellent winning chances in the endgame. I think we will see knight e4 momentarily.
Lovely tactic, though. Really nice one.
Yeah, good one to know. And White is holding on for now. I mean, still Black has to actually win the game. It's not enough to be a pawn up.
But she's more than a pawn up. She also has a nice, better knight. I'm sorry, I keep ragging on these knights on g3.
Well, they don't serve the player very well. You're right. Okay, nice.
But what to do? We're going to try to make a pass pawn here. Yeah, with e5. That's what I was thinking. But now White would get a little bit of play with knight f5. So Black chose to take on d4 instead. But this can make the defensive task a little. This can make the conversion task a little trickier.
Definitely, because it's not as easy to push e5 now. No, I think Harika is doing a fantastic job here. G3 and h4, getting the perfect structure on the king side. Of course, the problem with queen endgames is that there's always the threat of perpetual check. You can be up 5 pawns, and you can accidentally allow the opposing side's queen to sneak in and start delivering nasty checks. So e5, black will create a pass pawn, but that doesn't mean the game is over. White can still seek active counterplay with her queen. There we go, trying to get some sort of a perpetual going. Queen c8 maybe.
And queen c8 check here is in play. But what happens there after queen f8, Danya?
Yeah, queen f8 was possible. Queen g6 also possible. And d3 h5, and white wins the pawn.
Oh dear, that's an important line. d3 h5, so well done.
Wow, this decision to put the pawn on h4. And Kateryna realizes it, but if she plays something like queen d3, then all of these pawns on the 7th rank start to hang. White is very close to saving the game, but still, white has to be very accurate. I would play h5 after g6. Oh, no, then
you mentioned earlier, those perpetuals, that king safety, that is the problem. That's what makes it hard here. She did not play h5, though. She played a5 instead.
Okay, queen d5. White trying to basically sit tight and build a fortress. Because how does black make progress with this pawn deep freezing black's queenside pawns? There's no way to make progress, I think.
Yeah, that was her point of playing a5 and queen c7.
Okay, Kateryna, of course, will still try. She will try to force a queen trade, but as long as Harika doesn't allow a forced queen trade with a check, she's totally fine here.
Yeah, that's why she's keeping that king on the g1, h2 squares. Preferably g1 because it protects f2.
Okay, Kateryna going on a little walk with her king. Okay. But what now? Time scramble. Trying everything. Kateryna trying to find some arrangement of her king and her queen, but there's too many checks, and black doesn't have a plan here. She can never play b6. Yeah, it's a draw. What a save by Harika. What a frustrating game for Kateryna. I mean, she had everything she wanted. She was up a pawn, but excellent resilience by Harika, and she keeps her 1-point lead.
But here she keeps, it's funny, we were saying how much we love that she keeps switching up the openings, but I gotta say, Danya, the opening advantage has gone to Kateryna Lagno in this match so far, in the 3-1 portion.
Absolutely. She's been better every game, and eventually this is going to make its presence felt. Eventually, she is going to cash one of these games in, so she can't get discouraged. She has to keep displaying the same level of opening accuracy, and the ball is in Harika's court. She's repeated this. I mean, they have the same exact position. Knight f1, but black is probably slightly worse here. Maybe she wants a better move in this position. Yeah, bishop e8 is a different attempt.
Right. Last time she tried knight to e7 with the idea of knight f5, but knight g3 and Kateryna had a really promising position. So here we see instead Harika going for this quick e5.
Early e5, okay. What is the result of this trade? It's an isolated queen pawn on d5. Who does it favor? Well, white seems to have pretty good control of the square in front of it, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Black can also get very, very active. For example, knight e5, bishop e5, the queen can come out to f6, and there could be long-term pressure on the f2 pawn.
Well, one rule of thumb when you have that isolated queen pawn is you want a lot of trades if you're playing against the isolated queen pawn. So every single minor piece still on the board makes this very energetic possibility for Harika. As you point out, if we take on e5, bishop takes e5, gives that f6 square to black, and it wasn't something that Lagno wanted to see, so she played bishop d4 herself.
Bishop f7, but now why does the computer hate this move? I think it's because of knight to h5, and if you trade on d4, suddenly you literally cannot stop the checkmate on g7, and Kateryna, very sharp. Even though she's had some frustrating results, she has spotted all of the money moves in this segment so far, and this is going to be a huge problem because black has to allow the move knight takes f6 check. That is going to ruin a structure, and the bishop is going to be a monster.
It's so frustrating because, after if bishop takes d4, queen d4, we wish you could just play something like queen g5, stopping mate. And it's that stupid knight on g6 again.
Every game, it keeps being a problem. And again, Kateryna is dominating out of the opening, but can she cash in?
I mean, to her credit, Dronavalli has been sensational in coming up with chances, even when her back is against the wall. Can she do it again? She's got the time advantage, but what a nice position for white. Now, what's the best plan here? Do we play g3 to prevent you from playing knight f4? Like, she's decided to play bishop to g4, looking to get her queen into the game, I think. Like, you really want to get that queen on d1 into the swing of things.
Yeah, good call. I like this move. Bishop g4 is a good start, improving the bishop. But now, actually, there are many directions that you could put your queen on queen d2. You can play your move, queen f3. She plays queen d2. So far, she's just kind of keeping the tension. Maybe g3 and h4, although you have to be careful. This knight on g6 can jump into e5 at some point. We might see this move played right now. Although knight e5 also runs into maybe queen f4, pinning the knight. No, bishop f5, but now bishop g6. This is what Harika does. She just creates problems at every turn when you try to convert your advantage.
Such an important skill of a chess player, isn't it?
Extremely.
So now what? Now what about your queen f4 now?
Played.
Oh, okay.
All right. So maybe a trade on f5, and white obviously keeps a big advantage because of her fantastic bishop on d4. Okay, b6. I think we're going to see the move h4, or something like rook e3. b3. This move I don't really understand.
Yeah, because, knight c4 wasn't really a thing that we were concerned about. So I don't see what that move does right now, but she obviously saw a line where she didn't like something coming to c4.
Yeah, maybe just trying to make improvements and kind of pass the ball to black. Okay, knight drops back to f7. Now queen g4, knight h6 would be maybe a blunder. There's bishop e6 check. I would not deal with that line, but this is why b3 was a little bit too slow, because now it allows knight f7. You don't really want to trade queens here because then you're not really attacking, but I think you might have to trade queens and try to keep the advantage going into the endgame, and she does.
Yes, the advantage has definitely shrunk up here because part of the thing about having that pawn on f6 was it made your king unsafe, right? So we still have the two bishops for the moment, although I don't know how we really retain them. And we could back our bishop back or play bishop e6 check. So we still got the two bishops and we still got a good structure, but it's not like it is when we have queens on the board.
Yeah, exactly. Not as nice, but still very nice. Bishop d7. This very nice maneuver. Rook e7 coming in. And now big trouble for Harika. She basically is out of moves. That bishop on d7 is completely restricting the knight. Suddenly b3 looks like an extremely smart move because now you would really love to play knight c4. But can she finish it off?
Bishop e8. Okay, that looks smart. So what's the idea here? Bishop f6, is that in the game? Can we take a pawn here?
Yeah, but now bishop takes c6 and the knight comes to f5. And white could actually lose material here. Knight f5! And she's plundered away her advantage again. And bishop takes f6. There's rook takes f6 and black wins.
So how can we get out of this? Because it's saying that this is equal. Do we have a way to get like the two rook draw here somehow? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, some rook a7, rook e7, but then the knight comes back to f5. She tries it. But the knight
it's
going to be very difficult.
But she doesn't even go for rook e7, knight f5, rook takes h7 idea. Maybe that was the way, though, because then we always have the g4 idea.
And she plays it, but a little bit too early. Now she doesn't have rook b7, and knight c8 was the threat. Oh my gosh. Still not over. I mean, white has a lot of pawns here. The knight is jumping around. d4, here comes the passer. d3, d3. Oh, crushing.
Brilliant
the pawn
move.
squeezes through. Wow.
King
Harika
E1
is going to win. Just d2. And knight takes f3, maybe. Yeah. And rook e8, rook e1 is going to win.
That was so nice, because if king f3, there was d1 check with an x-ray. Oh, love to see it.
Rook d3, rook e3, rook e1. Actually, one more maneuver required by Harika. Oh, but she missed it, and she gave up the pawn.
Oh, no.
Oh, no way. And now Lagno has great chances to hold unless she blunders a fork.
That's right. She is down on time as well. Only 6 seconds left for Lagno. This game has taken so many twists.
And suddenly, I mean, a5, and don't laugh, but, under the right circumstances, Black could accidentally allow this pawn through. Objectively, this is now a draw. But in a time scramble, I would always prefer the side which has the knight because of the abundance of forks. King d6, knight c6 is coming. This is going to be still very, very hard to hold for Kateryna. Rook a5. Yeah, very nice.
Oh, and only 4 seconds left.
Wait, still. Get back. 1 second, king d2. Missing rook f7. That would have won the pawn back. And now so many forks. So many forks.
I don't think she can hold this with 1 second. No way.
No, king e3, too many mate threats. But she's coming close. She's and the king is getting out of the checks.
Well done. Prove me wrong, Kateryna. Can you do it?
Oh, where's the win? Rook f3, trying to force the rook trade.
F3.
This is crazy. Rook g4. Rook f8. She blundered her rook. She didn't take it. What is going on here?
But it's coming back. We can
h6. Oh my gosh. Now she finds it, and now it's a draw.
Yeah, take that pawn.
She's now playing for the win. Now White is going to enjoy this and say, "Wait a second. Now let me take a turn." Okay, that's it.
No, she does take the draw. She was a little worried about flagging there. Wow, what a finale!
Oh my goodness, that was insane. Harika didn't put her away when she had a chance with that rook d3, rook e3 maneuver. I called it a little bit too soon. An amazing defense with her last seconds by Kateryna. She didn't blunder her rook. She made it as difficult as possible. And again, frustrating result at the end of the day, but an amazing save nonetheless.
Unbelievable. I mean, what an escape artist Lagno was in that game. And honestly, that game had so many twists and turns. It's hard to even remember them all. But we're on to the next game. And indeed, we see yet another opening. She didn't want to repeat that kind of icky Jobaba London that she had in the first game, right? That was not promising.
Yeah, this is much more up her alley. Kateryna playing some sort of double fianchetto setup, which looks pretty reasonable. Okay, rook a b1. Yeah, this is a much quieter position than the previous game. Both players just kind of taking a breath.
That's right. Kateryna taking a longer breath as she's already down 20 seconds on the clock. But hey, as we see from last game, she can easily recover from that. D5. I like this move from a positional point of view because the bishop on b7 now, very unappealing.
Okay, queen a5, targeting the a2 pawn, which in most cases, I mean, you can capture it, but you might not live to tell the tale. Actually, in this particular position, queen takes a2, I think, is a threat. Because the queen could simply evacuate back through a5.
So
okay,
a3.
Makes sense. Solidifying the pawn. And a trade. Now, what is White going to recapture with? Because knight takes c4 is now much more tempting, followed by e4, getting some sort of a Benoni structure.
Oh, yeah, she's pondering it here. Queen takes c4 is the one that we're not going to see. Because then just knight b6 would win that pawn on d5. So she's choosing between pawn takes and knight takes. And the knight
Very
it is.
True. Wow, it's amazing. They've made 6 draws in a row, but it hasn't felt like that at all. Every game has been extremely combative. I think the results have been very, very fair.
Oh, yeah. Some really great chess we've seen so far today. A5. Now, I am concerned about that A pawn, just like a bishop c3, queen d2, piling up on it. So bishop a6 at least avoids all the disasters because the knight now is pinned.
Bishop a6 is an excellent move, yeah, because now you can eliminate the knight on demand whenever you want. And bishop takes a5 is not a threat. That's the important part because and again, excellent understanding of the position by Kateryna. She trades off the dark squared bishops Not sure who this favors. Harika will probably move her rook away from f1, would be my guess. And maybe then it'll be time for black to trade that knight off the board and stick a rook on this very juicy outpost on b4.
Yeah, this seems fine to me for black. Maybe a little bit easier to play for black, because I think that white's counterplay is going to have to come from some kind of center or kingside break, which are a little trickier to figure out how to execute. But if they come, they could be very dangerous.
Yeah, e5 can be very... Actually, e5 should be considered in this position. Even sacking the pawn, there are some queen d2, queen h6 maneuvers to consider. I think she's thinking about it.
Yeah, or e5, knight d5. Do we have the in-between move, takes on d6? I don't think so, because knight c3, pawn takes c7, knight takes b1. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Instead, your move, just backtracking and looking at that attack.
Yeah, anytime the dark squared bishop disappears, especially, you get the bishop, you have these dark square weaknesses, and that has to be paid attention to. And Kateryna now, with a very difficult decision to make, she can play d takes e5. I think she's very worried about this queen h6, knight g5 idea. She has to find an antidote, and she's got only a minute on her clock. This is very promising for Harika. Bishop c4,
Oh, yeah.
Great move, though. But what now? Okay. Oh, e6.
Yeah, e6, because I think if we just tried queen h6, pawn takes e5, knight g5, knight f6,
Exactly.
would have saved the day.
And white's attack would have reached a dead end. Instead, she's trying to open up new prospects. F takes e6. Maybe she wants even knight g5 and knight takes e6. Common idea. 38 seconds for Kateryna.
Very tricky to stop. Knight e5, I like this move. The knight on f3 had so many potential in so many positions, trying to neutralize it.
Okay. Now it's Harika's turn to take a think. E takes f7. Maybe allowing the knight. Yeah, allowing the knight to recapture. I would have maybe taken on e5 first, but at this point, I'm kind of nitpicking. It's just a very complicated position. Knight g5, but now knight takes c4. Could have been thrown in with tempo. Still pretty good for black. e5, closing up the e-file. Now the attack is kind of over. I like black's
It's a
position.
pawn. It is a pawn for black, and potentially a second pawn could be coming soon.
And maybe a
You
third
have to
one.
watch out, though. Rook c4, there could be rook b6, followed by bishop d5 check. I think that's one reason why king g7 was played. Get out of that diagonal.
Exactly. Just get the king on an uncheckable square. Maybe h6 at some point. Maybe just start taking more pawns. Rook takes c4. Okay. Excuse me. Rook f5. Chasing away the queen. And now knight takes c4. Beautiful.
Nice one by Kateryna Lagno, looking to even the score.
But again, same situation. Can she deliver the crushing blow? Can she finish the game off? Every time Harika has had an answer, and queen takes d6 is possible here, but instead she plays rook d2. But where is this knight going? 15 seconds. And
Rook b1 now.
Oh, and rook b7 suddenly is a huge... And again, queen b7 is going to fork the knight. Oh my gosh, another turnaround. Oh, rook f2, what a move.
Queen c2 check after king f2. Beautiful.
Insane.
Well done. Well done. But is there some kind of perp there for white?
Yeah. Just maybe take and go back to h2. Just go back to h2. And suddenly there's all these problems. Queen b7. Black is up 1,000 pawns, but it might not help because this knight is so misplaced. It's a 3-result game, Jen. Queen d6, queen e7. There are mate threats from white's side. Crazy.
Oh, knight e3 played. Queen takes e5 check. So be careful.
Oh!
Oh no.
Oh, there was queen. Was
Queen
there a mate?
e7.
Queen f8. Just mate in 3.
Where?
Queen f8 was mate.
Oh no. Queen f8 was mating there. Oh boy.
And are we going to get another repetition? Who is playing for the win here? It's impossible to say.
Well, we can't get onto the light squares because that knight on e3 protects d5.
And
So where
another
was that
draw.
mate, Danya? Do we have time to look? Where was the mate? I didn't see it. I think
Yes,
we're on to the next game.
yes. I can pull up the previous game, though, if that's okay with our...
Okay, yes, I would love that because I missed that mate for a second. You said there was a
Beautiful. Thank
mate.
you. there was a mate once when the king was on h6, if I understood correctly. It's very easy for me because I see the evo bar, but I think here,
Yes.
here. Now let me find it. Check. Here. And maybe
Just
it's
bishop takes and
it
queen.
takes.
Yeah. Bishop takes
Exactly.
and queen, queen
G5.
g5. Okay. There it
Lovely.
is. Ah.
That was the mate.
Okay. So easy to miss in blitz, though. It wasn't like it was a one-move mate, right? And I think bishop takes g4, tiny bit counterintuitive because we're pinning the knight. So I can definitely see missing that. But wow, big turnaround there as we saw yet another draw in a wild game.
And another save by Harika. I mean, again, she was at some point losing. And of course, she was on the defensive. So you're not necessarily looking for a turnaround win. In those situations, you're usually psychologically satisfied with a draw. So that makes it harder to look for those sudden, moves that turn the game around completely. Okay, another crazy opening, another cozy O. So Harika deviating from the French, feeling that, okay, this is not going so well for me. Let me go back to the Rue Lopez. And what is happening here? BC. Okay.
This can't be that good for Black. I mean, we haven't sacrificed anything, and I've gotten a really lovely pawn structure.
Very true. And e4 is a target.
And what is Black playing for here? And you're far from castling because you're not castling queenside, that's for sure. You need to get your knight and your bishop out before you get to castle. So this is the type of one that you really need to study beforehand to play, because when you just look at it, it looks bad for Black.
I think it is. I think she misplayed. I mean, it's so weird because the first two games, Harika completely outprepared Kateryna. And what feels like the last 8 games, Kateryna has been better out of the opening every single time with both colors. But she has not been able to capitalize. Yeah, where does Harika move her bishop? Rook e1 is coming. The knight from b1 can be developed and brought into the game via c4. Okay, a5, trying to get bishop to a6, but rook e1 comes first. Man, Black's position is close to collapsing right off the gate here.
Oh no, tactics are starting to erupt. I mean, I'm looking at things like bishop b3. Gosh, you're saying knight a3. We need to get. How do we f3 play it? I was wondering also about d4. I was just trying to sack stuff and like get my position wide open. But okay, f3. Similar ideas here. She's trying to open the position, blast it open.
But feels a little bit awkward, f3. Maybe it'll work out. Queen takes f3. I would have played g takes f3. I definitely would not trade queens here, because now Harika again takes bishop e7, and Black can at least breathe.
At least bishop takes c6 is a threat. But I mean, obviously Harika's going to see it. So taking advantage of the pin on the knight on e7, bishop takes c6 is on tap. But something like bishop d7, of course, protects against it.
Oh, she missed it! No! I can't believe it. And Harika can't believe it. And she resigns immediately. And that is how Kateryna levels the score. Unreal.
Oh my God, that was a bad commentator's curse, Tanya.
All your fault. It's all our fault. No, but that was impossible to predict. I mean, bishop takes c6, she would normally see in her sleep. That was just a neural misfire. But you know what? Very frustrating.
There is some logic to it, Danya, because sometimes when people get the queens traded off, they relax. They're like, no more tactics.
Yeah, we saw that in game 1, actually, with colors reversed. Rook takes f3. It was Harika missing the tactic, or Kateryna missing the tactic. But Harika's left some points on the table as well. I mean, she had that bishop d4 move. Here she got out of the opening troubles only to blunder the rook. So this is going to catch up to her as well. But the fact remains, Jen, the match is tied. We've got only 11 minutes to go. This bullet segment is going to be incredible.
I love how at least she resigned immediately. It shows that she's got confidence. She wants as many 3-minute games as possible to recover from that. And yeah, you need to have confidence going into the bullet. So that is exactly what you all should do at home. You make a blunder, it doesn't define you. The blunder is not you, right? And I love that philosophy.
Yeah, you just have to, in a match situation, you have to move on immediately because, okay, it happened. It's blitz. It's life. Next game. Let's go. And again, I like Kateryna's position, bishop f8, and she's going to start putting some pressure on this e4 pawn. You would never know that this is actually started out from one d4. This looks like a Philidor or, you know, some d4 opening, but actually this started out as some sort of a weird King's Indian defense, but it did ultimately transition to a Philidor.
I see here it's calling it a Tartakower, which is not, you know, I think of Tartakower as the line in the Queen's Gambit declined.
Yeah,
but a
I
lot
learn
of
new
these guys
things every day from these Chess.com opening labels.
Yeah, they have a lot of different names. Some players like Tartakower, he has many openings named after him. Great guy, look him up. Really, really great aphorisms by Tartakower and a true hero of the game.
Yeah, honestly, so many great quips. Like the player who loses is the one who makes the second to last mistake, I think.
Yes, that's his. That's right. I feel like Tartakower would have been really great at Twitter.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he would have loved it. Tactics is knowing what to do when there is something to do. Strategy is knowing what to do when there is nothing to do. No one has ever won a game by resigning.
Hey, you got his quotes open on another page. Oh, there's one about openings. And I'll take any opening as long as it doesn't have too good of a reputation.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, very good. Yeah, he was a very eccentric opening player. He liked 1f4, 1b3, that kind of stuff.
Now, this position, I think, has turned to a point where we see two bishops for black, but kind of a nice position for white as well. Are you still taking team black here, or are you liking the way that white's now pointed toward the f7 pawn? The rook on e3 looks poised to go to g3 or f3 at some good moment.
It looks very fancy. It looks nice, but I like black because you can always play bishop e6 on demand. And okay, there it is. Bishop b3. I mean, white is also solid, but I would like g6, bishop g7 here. Black has everything that she could possibly dream of. A great bishop that is uncontested once it's deployed to the long diagonal. Long-term queenside pressure with a5 and a4, and potentially the breakthrough with d5, although that's very, very far in the future. For the time being, white is nicely controlling that square. So position is close to equal, but I think black is easier to play in a blitz game.
Rook b1. Okay, this is the move that we've kind of seen recurring through the match. Bishop takes e6. And again, now we've got this set up with the knight on c3. Not as good a piece as the bishop on g7. The knight needs to relocate. Knight e2 at some moment is coming for sure.
Yes, and black is likely to pile up on the e4 pawn. This is like the main target in the position. Queen e7. Yep, it's on the board.
But now my problem is if I play knight e2, I have to reckon with the bishop h6, the artificial looking move, but you know, I'm trying to just remove your rook on e3 from protecting e4.
Very well spotted. And a4 played. Harika not, Nero fiddles while Rome burns, but black continues to build up on the e4 pawn. Okay, now she brings her rook to e1. So now bishop takes c3 and rook takes c4 is no longer possible, but black does not just want to cash in. That bishop on g7 is worth its weight in gold.
I'm still just dying to do something better with that knight on c3, but I get it. It might not be the most exciting knight, but it is defending a very important pawn on e4.
Yeah, but what now? I mean, the pressure continues to grow. The time continues to dwindle. Okay, knight d1. But now the knight is just sort of navel-gazing, and black continues to escalate the tension on both sides of the board. But again, it's the same problem. Where is the crushing blow? Harika just kind of curls up into a ball. We've seen this before. Can Kateryna convert this slight advantage and take the lead in the match?
I don't know. It seems like she's doing a good job here as Harika of defending all the money points. But she is down 30 seconds on the clock.
And now, yep, rook e2, just kind of shifting back and forth. This is all the black and white can do. Okay, are we going to see a repetition? I think Kateryna feels that, I have to try to squeeze something here. But if she doesn't find anything, then she shouldn't do anything drastic. I mean, the match is tied. She's in a good situation, but she can make these small moves to try to catch white unaware.
That's right. And look
Okay.
at that. Harika took the opportunity of the bishop straying to h6 to greatly improve her knight position, sticking on c4 when you couldn't play bishop takes b2.
Exactly. Okay, rook d7. Kateryna keeps trying to play for the win. I would ignore the eval bar here. The clocks continue to dwindle. Maybe d5, and it's a draw by repetition. Okay, so neither player wanting to take too much of a risk here.
And we might be in our final game here, Danya.
Very likely so. 7-7 is the score. We called for a close match. We have a close match. Not a surprise to anybody. These players are so in the match, and I like it. Harika finally comes back to her initial choice of opening that brought her so much success. And let's see what, in fact, Kateryna had prepared during the 5-minute break, or the 5-minute portion break.
That's right. This is the opening that she started with. Since then, she has played different things, the French defense, the Cosio, but she got great positions in this in the beginning of the match. So can she retake the lead here with this opening?
We've seen, I think, either exactly this position or something very similar. I remember bishop g5, f6, bishop b3, but this time a fundamentally different approach taken by Kateryna. She takes on c6. Very concrete, just saying, give me the pawn.
All right, and now queen e7, f4 are not allowed because that bishop on a7 does the pinning. So bishop f4, queen h5, both keep that pawn. Queen h5, I like it.
Queen h5, keeping the pawn, activating the queen. You would love to get this knight around to f3. Okay, h6, halting the potential for white's kingside expansion. Bishop f4, very good. White is better. But black can also try bishop e6, and maybe queenside castle is what black should do in order to turn the tables here. Yeah, I would definitely castle queenside.
Yeah, and then you're going to get that g5 move in that you've been pointing towards. The thing is, the queen on h5 will end up preventing black from pawn storming, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's just sitting there in the middle. And white is also preventing black from castling queenside. Kateryna identified the danger. And she says, no, no, no. I am going to stop this from happening.
And this is why g6 was played. So before playing g5, she sticks in g6, ousting the queen. And now what are we going to see? We're going to see h5 here?
Yeah, maybe. Or, oops, sorry. Or maybe bishop takes e3 first, but okay, c5. Wow, very committal, trying to keep her bishop there, but also locking her own bishop up. c4, very beautiful.
Nice.
And look at how ugly. I mean, all these weak squares, and knight a4 is going to be nasty. I feel like Kateryna is very, very close to crashing through here.
What a great move, c4. I love that move. c4 with the idea of knight c3. So alert.
Very well played. Bishop c5. Now black cannot castle either direction. The king is caught in the center. The knight is aiming for b6. And white could even potentially double on the d-file. This is borderline winning for white. But we know Harika just turns on in these moments. And she just refuses to give up. Can she do it again in this likely the final game of the 3-minute portion?
Definitely possible. But the problem here is not only that she's down a pawn, but look at that king on e8. Uncastled. It's just not going to castle because the bishop on c5 and the rook d1 are preventing that. And I mean, that's cause for grave concern here.
Very true. I mean, the king might find itself in the grave pretty soon. Where is the rook going? Okay, but now I think rook takes d8 and rook d1 looks pretty automatic. Maybe Harika wants... No, queen takes d8, okay. Queen c7. Very good.
Queen c7, eh? I'm trying to find some beautiful variation like knight a8 and bishop
Knight
b6.
a8, knight a8, bishop a7, something like...
It wasn't quite working.
It comes close to working. Bishop b6, yeah. But maybe you need one more setup move. Queen e3, is that it? Maybe not, says the computer. But I like queen e3. You're targeting the g-pawn, likely provoking f6. And maybe black can evacuate the king through these light squares. Maybe that is the problem. King f7 is coming.
Nice move. f6, you called it. Like, Harika is always finding these defensive possibilities where so many other players would just crumble.
It's amazing. And you can just sense the game already starting to turn around. Kateryna's taking a lot more time. If king f7, king g6 happens, black's king is suddenly very safe. And white's pieces looked so pretty on the queen side. Now they're kind of stuck. Bishop d4, Kateryna trying to double back and trade something off.
I like
Maybe
that.
c5. Yeah, very responsible decision. And she is still up a pawn. Let's not forget that white is up a pawn.
There's just a lot of logic to this, right? Like Kateryna realizes that things were turning around for her. So she wants to kind of make the game a little bit more safe. There's knight d7 in this position.
Ooh. Okay, and if queen takes b2, maybe she wants e5, just blasting open the king side. Black's king just cannot catch a break here.
We're going to see it.
E5. Go for it. You got to step on the gas pedal. Oh, knight c5 instead? Ah, bishop c8. But all of this makes sense, what both players are doing.
All right, so now e5, you have queen takes e5. So she's played rook d4, trying to interfere with the queen's defenses. I mean, the move looks smart to me. Computer hates it, but this seems like very logical.
But I think she's forgetting her own king is now going to be caught. But h4 is like literally every human would play. And hg is going to happen. There's mate threats galore. Craziness on the board. h3.
Oh, no.
Now king is driven out. But where is the checkmate? There is no checkmate.
Well, g4 check.
King e2.
No, then you have king e2.
Okay. Queen
So
takes
that wasn't
e5,
it.
maybe rook e4. I don't know. Maybe an endgame. Okay, rook e8. Why is this losing? Knight e4. Oh!
Oh, gosh.
Unstoppable family fork.
Every single piece. It is the quintessential family fork.
Retreating knight moves are the hardest moves. Why did she put a rook on d6? Knight d6 was just a fork. It would have ended the game. And now the game ends in the other direction. g4.
Oh, nice one. And because rook f6 doesn't work, right? Yeah.
Because if queen takes f6. Exactly. White is busto now. Rook d4, c5. Goodbye.
Oh, rook d4, c5, nice find. Just outstanding. And there it is, as we have run out of time on this leg. And look at that. Harika Dronavalli wins the game that we had thought was going Lagno's way.
Not the way she expected to do it, but what a match this has been. It has been impossible to predict the result of any individual game. But at the end of the 3-minute portion, the score remains 1 point in favor of Harika Dronavalli. She leads with a score of 8-7, Jen. Just craziness all around.
Can't wait to see what's going to happen to the bullet. We'll be right back with that.
Amazing stuff. We'll be back with more WSCC action in just a couple of moments. Before we do, we have a quick announcement. Let me see. Yeah, we wanted to remind you not to miss your chance to play the Duolingo bots on Chess.com. We've got all your favorite Duolingo characters like Oscar, Lily, and even Duo himself. And we're hearing that Duo is a real menace on the 64 squares. Have you been able to beat him with Italian, Spanish, or other language-themed openings? To improve your chess and language skills with the help of Duolingo's iconic characters, use !super in chat now or head on over to go.chess.com/playduo. And we will be back with more action with a bullet coming up in just a few.
I think my most the time control I like the most is Blitz, maybe 3+2. Definitely, I think nowadays even we are getting lost in touch with this classical time control. Though I played many this year, still I feel like the tournaments are really, really long. So I'm liking this more, especially after being a mother. I'm liking more of short time controls. so that you can quickly finish the tournament and you go back home. So definitely I would say shorter time controls I prefer, and especially Blitz 3+2. Yeah, it's interesting, definitely. It's also, I think, addictive once you start playing it. But I think then it almost like the importance of chess, like understanding or anything, I think will slightly reduce. So maybe for that reason, I prefer 3+2. But also, of course, Bullet is a lot of fun, and it's been a while I got into it. So I'm looking forward to play some Bullet too.
Welcome back to the Julius Baer Women's eChess Championship. Kateryna Lagno is the defending WSCC champion, but she faces very stalwart opposition in this semifinal. Here was her 2022 run where she defeated Yifan in the final. What an incredible run. She defeated India's first Grandmaster, Jen Humpy Kaneru, 14-11. Does she have it in her to defeat India's second Grandmaster, Dronavalli Harika, today?
Great question. I mean, we're going to find out soon, but I will say that a 1-point edge in the bullet is pretty insignificant, right? Going into the bullet, this could change so fast.
It really could. It's been a crazy match so far. We've had a lot of draws, but I mean, the result of the game has been irrelevant. The action has been non-stop. The players have just put everything on the table, but now they need one last push. It is a 1-point lead for Harika, but we know how quickly 1-point leads can disappear in the bullet. Literally, in the span of 30 seconds, everything can change.
But, you know, I have to say both players are doing pretty well with not flagging. I mean, we've seen a lot of blunders in time scrambles, which is like kind of synonymous. If you look up time scramble, you also see blunder, but we haven't seen people literally fall on the flag or lose on time. And I think that bodes well that this is going to be a very competitive bullet match.
I agree. And that's an interesting point. Yeah, nobody. Okay, and technically in the last 3-minute portion game, Lagno flagged, but her position had already fallen apart. So, one thing I always say before the bullet match in any SCC match is for the players not to overcompensate. 1+1 is actually, it's not 1+0. You still have a minute. You don't need to make all of your moves in 3 seconds. And sometimes you see players a little bit over eager to play quickly, but you actually need to devote quite a bit of time into getting a good position out of the opening.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's funny. Your often co-host Robert Hess. Every time I'm tuning in, he's like, "They're playing too slow. They're playing too fast. They're playing too fast." And it's just something that's so funny because it's not words that you're used to hearing about a bullet game, but it is possible, and we're hearing it from the best here as well.
And I'm not exactly in a position to accuse anybody of playing too fast. I think I sometimes have this problem myself in all time controls. But it's the change of time control. It's like, okay, now I'm playing the bullet. This is the fastest time control. You rev yourself up. And before you know it, you've got 55 seconds in a completely losing position. You'd rather have 5 seconds in a winning position. So we will see. I mean, I don't know much about either of these players' bullet experiences. My guess would be that most of their bullet experience probably comes from previous WSCC matches. I would probably peg Lagno as the mild favorite in the bullet, but Harika has been so good in time scrambles. She's been so resilient today. Let's see if those skills carry over into the bullet.
And she has that 1 point lead going in, which isn't nothing. Now, I also say that it is, of course, bullet in the Speed Chess Championships is with a 1-second increment. And that is where we've been seeing throughout this match, even when they get down to a few seconds with the 1-second increment, they have been playing pretty good chess, right? So I expect to see a lot of that in almost every single game here in the bullet, that they're going to get down to those 10 seconds. We're going to see some great end games, and we're going to see some wild scrambles.
We are indeed. The games are about to get underway. Okay, we have 25 minutes of 1+1 to play. We know how quickly those 25 minutes disappear. We also need to remember that 1+1 games can actually last quite a while. They can last 4, even 5 minutes sometimes. So if this match remains close, we will keep you posted on that time counter up in the top left. Very, very important for determining match strategy. But that's a little bit later. The game is underway. Harika with an English opening, and Lagno responds with a King's Indian setup in game 1.
I love this choice by Harika for her white pieces. She hasn't been getting that much with white when she's played d4, knight c3, Jobava, London. So let's go for this like closed setup where she can play a lot of moves quickly.
Okay, so far Harika still with a minute on her clock, but so far she's making all of the standard moves, alertly protecting her h-pawn. And the typical queen side expansion with b4, b5, that is white's main plan. Okay, rook a3. Lagno says, no, I'm also playing on the queen side. Okay, very nice. Doubling on the a file. I like it. c5. Ooh, nasty move.
Nice move. Nice move. If I could play d5 here, I'd be thrilled, but there is knight takes e5.
Yeah, just needling away at black's pawn. This is why you want your pawn. You want to play c6, c7 here. That would be the best move in the position. If pawns move backwards, but they do not. Okay, rook a5, but this seems very borderline. I mean, cd and d4. And I feel like Harika playing a little bit too passively here, but she's still in the driver's seat. Still a lot of problems that Kateryna is experiencing in her center.
Yeah, she's poised to play d4 at the right moment, and there it is. She thinks this is it.
I think it is. I think it's a great moment to play d4. Black's position is borderline collapsing. Harika with a 20-second time advantage. Rook takes c5, not possible because the other rook is hanging, and that's a huge problem. I would even maybe sack the exchange on e3. But Lagno continues to try to operate on the a file. Maybe queen a7 next.
So she's played bishop a2, and we have rook b8 sinking into the position as she maintains that 20-second edge. A great start for Harika here.
Yeah, big trouble. 5 seconds. I don't see Kateryna climbing out of this. Anything is winning. Knight f5. Probably knight b3 even. Oh, what a move. Lovely. Kateryna gives up her queen. But she's not even getting... She just gets a rook for it. No, it's over. Queen d7 resigns. Here goes another piece. Incredible. What a game by Harika. That was really high quality. And her lead is extended to 2.
She goes up 9-0, 7-0, trying to repeat that victory in this match from 2 years ago.
Okay, in a modern system.
Yeah, can Kateryna bring it back to 1-point lead? Well, I like the opening for Kateryna. I mean, hey, we got the center. Somehow the computer already likes it for black. What is it? Like the C5 and B4 ideas can become super annoying.
Very true. There's B4 and C5. I think it's about equal. I mean, white's going to go knight to G3. But you have to be careful. Knight G4 might be unpleasant here, going after the bishop pair.
Well, I particularly love my dark square bishop in this position because it's that one that can remove the defender of your king side.
Okay, so a bunch of trades at the end of which, yeah, this is pretty balanced. I mean, almost looks like a Ruy Lopez structure, if anything. But I think white has a slight pull. There's always these tactics sometimes with like knight f5 and queen g5. You have to always be careful. This king, without its protector on g7, is always going to be caught in the crossfire of potential tactics. Maybe just king h8, get it out of there.
And what is the tactic if we were to play like knight e4, but knight g8 was played?
Knight f5. And she blundered the d6 pawn and Kateryna missed
d6
it.
was hanging. Just a beautiful little pawn there. Not just any pawn, a beautiful pawn.
But bullet
that
dodge.
was missed.
Okay, rook b1, good move. Still, white is very much in the driver's seat. A lot of weaknesses for black. Space advantage. Harika fighting back. Forcing that knight away. Again, g3. I feel like every game we've had some knight on g3 or g6.
Yeah, they're really testing that concept. h3, just trying to keep that knight on h6 at bay. I like it.
Rook e8, okay. d5 is a possibility in the future. Okay, prevented with an excellent lateral defensive move, rook b6. And this time, Kateryna. Oh, queen c3, another amazing move.
Allowing queen takes b6, but then there would have been knight f5 or knight e6. So instead, she gets the king out of harm's way first, giving Kateryna time to play rook to b1. I love her position, and she's ahead on the clock. Can she make this a 1-point lead yet again?
Now up a pawn, but again, Harika very much still in the game. I mean, yeah, you're down a pawn, but in bullet, that matters a lot less than who has the initiative. Can Harika keep the flame burning? Queen d2, trying to trick white into blundering one of her pieces, but Lagno keeps everything nicely protected, forcing the queen back. But where is the crushing blow? Is it f4? Is it getting this bishop to a2? Hard to say. And here we go. The craziness begins.
All right, and then I like that we... Oh, queen b2.
Oh, queen e5. Where's the crusher?
Right, queen e5 could have happened, but she went this way.
It wasn't that. But it's anybody's game here still. Rook d3, not the move. Rook c5, and black extricates herself from the pin.
Oh, yes. Good move, rook c5. Do it.
She puts the other rook on c5, and white blunders the knight. No, but the bishop is hanging. What's going on here?
So she keeps the balance.
Trade? Oh my god, equal endgame now suddenly? Who is better and why? No, white is better. Rook
White's
a2.
better, but that knight on h6 is also very woeful here.
But black is trying to get piggies on the second. Get her second rook to e2. And then things will spin out of control. 1 second, she's got to move.
And don't forget to stick that pawn on h4 to create a mate threat.
Mate. It's mate. Harika wins.
Oh, no.
No way.
Oh. And now it is a big margin now. 3 points.
Oh, my gosh. It feels like every one of these 50-50 time scrambles, Harika ends up winning. It's incredible.
She does find a way to get it done, right? That's the thing. When she was losing in the time scrambles, she would find a way to create chances. And now we're seeing the bullet version of that, which is not pretty so far for Lagno.
But lest anyone think that, this match is over, 3 points is nothing with still 18 minutes to go. Every one of these games can go either way. So, I mean, this time both players are playing really, really quickly. Okay. Feels like Harika has a tiny pull, but maybe no. Maybe it's just equal in this endgame.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, they've gotten into this endgame so quickly, barely breaking a sweat, either of them. But sure, yeah. Who's better and why? I mean, White's got a slightly better bishop, right? But I I think that Black will have to make some mistakes for this to be a serious edge for White.
I agree. Also, of course, this can turn around. White can get overextended on the queen side. Maybe some bishop e6 can be considered to harass the c4 pawn. But another problem is that Black has a very hard time getting either of her rooks to the a file. White, on the other hand, has this infiltration to a7 already prepared, plus 20 seconds on the clock as well. Harika playing with a lot of confidence. I think she senses that this is the moment where I can deliver the crushing blow. But Lagno says, not just yet. Okay, unbalanced endgame.
Well, I like this development for Black because I was getting a little nervous exactly what you were saying about the A file. Now I can breathe a little because it's clearer what my goal is to stop that d pawn.
Yeah, that d pawn is full steam ahead.
But, this could turn around. It could actually end up becoming good for Black if we can round up that pawn, right? I mean,
I think it already is.
Rook c6 to c7. Grab it and go.
Maybe start pushing. Yeah. No, this is now, White is very much on the defensive now. Harika playing a little bit over ambitiously here. But Black now might push her pawn to c2. That might force this rook to c1, and then it'll be easier to round up that pawn. King back to e7 maybe now. But rook d3. But still, rook d7, rook c3, trade and go rook b7 and start pushing your other passer. Push. Push.
There you have it.
Okay, Harika holding very accurately here.
With a huge time advantage, by the way. I mean...
And Black can lose this.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Looks like a draw.
Yeah, I think this one will be a draw.
Yeah, maybe h5. Okay, no, Kateryna acquiesces to the draw. Another couple minutes off the match clock. I mean, Hikaru would probably, spend 40. I mean, not just Hikaru. I think that the smart strategy would be to bleed as much time off the clock as possible. And Harika is doing just that. And this is a completely legitimate match strategy. You're up 3 points. If you can take another minute off the clock, why not?
I love it. She's very cagey. You can see like her psychological and competitive spirit in the choice of openings. She's not just thinking about what's best. She's thinking about how to, play best against her opponent. And right now, this is the strategy.
Yeah, it's not necessarily pretty, but people in the chat tend to take issue with this. I don't really understand why. This is a match. You're trying to win the match. You do what you can to win the match. It's like, not everything has to be pretty or fun for necessarily the fans every second. We still want the players to play for the win. That's ultimately what makes these matches fun. And this is the most efficient match strategy. So what makes it wrong? I don't understand.
Who's better, Danya? Who's better?
Yeah. Let's evaluate the position. I'm missing the action.
I mean, who's more likely to fall into a skewer here? Which player has more space? Which one has the positional advantage?
In a non-increment time scramble, right now it's White. But yeah, I mean, I would actually, when we come close to the 50 move rule, if you're Harika, I would mark the point at which the 50 move rule counter began. And I would just wait out the 44 seconds to get the maximum amount of time off the match clock.
I see. I don't think, I don't know if she's going that far. Indeed,
no,
draw by 50
quite.
Move rule. Okay.
All right.
Bad move, according to Danya. Same move, but slower.
But now, okay, so 12:45 on the clock. We want to remind people that if a game begins and there's even 3 seconds left on the match clock, that game will count for the score. So there is enough time. But at this point, I think basically Lagno has to be perfect. I don't think she can afford another loss.
All right. Well, she's got exactly the type of position she wants in a must-win type of situation. Castling on opposite sides. Well, I mean, the Black King isn't even castled yet, but we are castled on a different side, and we've got our position ready to roll. We're going to get to open up the position at some point. I'd like to get E5 in.
Okay, Harika just kind of back and forth on the E5 and E6. Oh, E6 is nasty.
Go.
Ooh, Queen G3.
Let's
Queen
go.
Queen G3 was game over, by the way.
Oh,
on the
Queen
spot.
G3. Same idea, but with a bigger piece.
But even this, I mean, Rook takes G6, just totally crushing. Totally crushing. Queen G3 is coming. This one, it would take divine intervention. Actually, I mean, Harika's doing her best, but bishop takes
Yeah,
A3.
she always does her best. Always does her best.
Kateryna's rushing.
Threat.
Why is Kateryna rushing when just bishop takes A3 would have ended the game? Now it's getting messy again. Oh my gosh, no way.
Why is this drawish? Is there a Rook B2 here? No.
And Queen B4 looks like a move, just kind of trying to paralyze. Now definitely bishop takes A3, and again, white should be winning. Wow. Man, if Kateryna doesn't win this, then I guess the match isn't meant to be.
I think she's going to win it, though. She's got the 20 extra seconds. She's got the position. She's ready to open the position up. Rook takes... No, she plays Rook G7.
Harika does not go down. She just keeps finding ways to extend the game.
Sure. That's good for her right now, not only because of the position, but also because of the time clock.
I think she's turning this around. I'm going to call it. I can sense it in the position. I think white is winning on the board, but I think Kateryna is not sure what to do. She is trying to get her bishop around to E3. Bishop E3 might win the queen, though. No, bishop E3, queen F6. Queen F6. And D4 is coming. Still a game.
Yeah, that's right. She needs to get her own queen into the attack. That would end things.
God, it's still going. Harika just won't go down. Queen H4. Mate threat on C1. 10 seconds for Kateryna. Queen D2. Bishop B6 wins the queen.
Bishop
Queen.
B6.
Bishop B6. Bishop B6.
That'll make it easy. That'll do it.
Huge win.
All right, this was necessary. And here we're going to see Harika take it to the last second. Oh, I was wrong.
Yeah, I think she should. I don't really understand why players don't do that more in SCC matches, but very honorable. 9.5 to go, plenty of time. Huge game. Huge game, potentially the decisive game, if Harika can win it.
And I like, again, we saw this opening choice in the first bullet game, where she got a really nice game. She got a nice position.
Yeah, this time Kateryna puts her pawn on F5 earlier in the game, which I like. I think this is a much more ambitious approach on the king side. But again, this very unpleasant plan, orchestrating pressure on C6. But yeah, Kateryna has a much better version than she did in the first game. E4, very well done. A little bit of confidence, I think the last game gave her that, yes, I can make this happen. But maybe D5 played. Sacking the pawn for some activity in the center. Kateryna says, no, thank you. Uh-oh. Very nice move by Harika.
Okay, what do we do now? We need to probably play knight takes D5. Nope, she's played queen E5. And now bishop F4.
Apparently not
so
the
knight
move.
D7, we have time to play queen takes D1. Not the end of the world. That's why what... Yep.
8 minutes now on the match clock. Okay. I feel like black is maybe a little bit for choice here because of her very impressive pawn chain. On the other hand, white's minor pieces in the center are very active. It's anybody's game. Impossible to even evaluate this endgame. Bishop E7. Look at that. Exquisite evacuation technique by Harika.
Evacuation technique. I love it.
It's a very tense endgame. but Kateryna is up on the clock. F4. Premature.
Why? It looks so natural, though, Don. You're just getting that knight to a better square, attacking e2.
And she captures it, but king f1, and she blunders a piece. Just bishop c6, knight c1, knight d1. She again rushed it.
Oh, no, it's 4 versus 3. 4 pieces to 3 pieces. Not an imbalance we see every day, I must add.
No, not an imbalance that we see. I don't think I've ever seen. But it's not over. I mean, black has drawing chances here, and especially because white just blundered the h-pawn, which black didn't take.
Yeah, we should have taken that pawn. And there it is. You get another chance.
Take it.
Take
the pawn.
The pawn.
She just resigned. No.
Oh, maybe she thought she needed the extra time to get another game in, Danya?
It's possible, and she still has time, but now she definitely needs to be perfect. It's like the deadline has been reached. There is enough time for 3 games if she wins one of them fast, but it's getting very, very close, and Harika just needs to extend each game.
And that's exactly why she resigned there, indeed. Maybe if that was her intent, maybe she should have resigned immediately that she lost a piece. But anyway, here we are.
Yeah. Okay. Again, Kateryna with a good position out of the opening. B takes a3 and h5. Oops, sorry. B takes a3 and h5 is coming.
Can't argue with that. I mean, a knight on h8. But the position being so closed.
Ugh. Ugly for black, but you're right. The position being closed means that this game is going to go on for a while, just basically by definition.
Exactly. And that's why I like the choice by Harika. Very savvy, as always.
Yeah, at this point, she is playing the match and the clock. If one of these games can go on 4 minutes, it's over. Maybe this one. G4, Kateryna trying to blast open the king side, trying to get that attack going. But it might be too little too late. As Harika's knight establishes itself on c4, the other knight comes out, f-file is open. White might be the one getting attacked on the king side.
Yeah, some really nice and beautiful knight there on c4. And now another friendly knight on f5.
Yeah, obviously white cannot afford to repeat moves here. The time has dwindled down too much. Okay, b6, queen g3, threatening the knight on h6. It comes back to f5. But Kateryna's just not making any progress here, and the clock just continues to tick down mercilessly. And black is actually better here. Ooh.
Well, what about these knight g6 ideas?
Trying to set something up. But bishop b7, great move. Just taking the bones out of white's attack. Without this bishop, it's going to be so difficult to keep things together. Harika smells blood. Okay. Queen f3 is a move.
Oh, yeah. Queen f3 is going to be
trade.
juicy.
Oh, bishop f1. Very nice. But rook f5, bringing in the heavy reserves. Oh, where do you go now? You might drop a piece here. Knight takes f2.
Oh. Knight takes f2 and knight h3 check. Brilliant, Danya. Love it.
And she's thinking she spotted the moment, but she's given up a piece. And hold your horses, everybody. Kateryna's winning this one. Can she convert it quickly? First big question. She needs to do this in like under a minute tops.
I think she can. And then we'll have a 2-pointer. Oh, but it's going to be really dicey.
Yeah, less than 3 minutes now. Each game takes usually an average of about 2.5, 3 minutes. Is not even that long for a 1+1 game. Harika needs to just take another 30, 45 seconds off the clock. But she's trying. She's trying to swindle in. I mean, we know how hard she fights. She's making this very difficult on Kateryna. A lot of work still to do. King g7. There's some mate threats. Maybe f5 can be played. Okay, white is going to win, I think. Oh, she blundered a rook.
She meant to play rook h1 first.
Oh my gosh. Kateryna cannot catch a break. She's still winning, by the way. It's still winning for white on the board, I think, after the e6 pawn drops. But it's taking
That is
way too
amazing.
long.
That shows you how great the position was, that she just straight up blundered the rook, but she's still winning because of these gorgeous. Speaking
Full
of
rook
duo.
and it's still winning. Yeah. But this is taking too much time, I'm afraid. And it's not even over yet.
How we have
rook
3?
C5. Oh, she's not going to win it. King e6 draw.
Oh no, because
Oh.
d5 check, king takes f7, and yeah, we just pin it here, and that's it. And
That's
that
it.
is it. What a job by Harika, the defensive champion here. Wow, just an absolute wizard in defensive skills here. Now, of course, she was helped in this case by the rook blunder, which, by the way, Danya, I just think was Kateryna was trying to play so fast, and she mixed up in her head. She wanted to play rook h1, right, and king f3. And she reversed the order.
Totally. And in retrospect, I think there was not enough time for 2 more wins. It was an admirable effort, but all credit to Harika. I mean, she faced so many difficult positions in this match, and not a single game was just sort of given away. Every time she fought very hard, and she pulled so many full points out of those difficult situations. Yeah, this will be the last game, but it is purely academic. The lead is insurmountable with only 40 seconds left on the match counter.
And you know what this means? This means we're going to see Dronavalli and Yifan in the final. And this is a repeat of a final that we had a couple years ago. So that is going to be one to watch.
It is, and we will be watching it tomorrow. It's going to be even earlier, though. So first, I have to make sure I wake up. But it's going to be an incredible final, honestly. And Harika has just shown such good form. I think she does need to bring spicier opening preparation to the table tomorrow, because Yifan is just a wizard with both colors. But it's going to be a really, really exciting match. Okay. Concluding this final game of the match, Kateryna has a nice position once again.
Very nice. Look at that pawn on f3. That's not something you really want to see. And the beautiful minor pieces fixating on the d pawn. But it's not just a pawn, it's also a square.
Exactly. And she sticks her knight onto that square. h5. But it is too little and too late. The match is, and FG opening up the bishop. And here comes Harika once again. Bishop takes c6. He's back in the game. Ooh, knight f2. Game is over.
Well, it's coming anyway. Oh, she wants to put the knight on. I mean, there's so many knights coming into the game. It doesn't even matter that you missed the earlier one. This one's just as good.
Yeah, this one's coming too, and it's just as good, even better. Okay, also this is very good. Bishop e4. Okay, yeah. Bishop e4 coming. Oh, queen a2 coming at it from the other side. Yeah. Very nice.
Great game by Kateryna Lagno. It looks like she is gearing up to win this game, but it might not be enough. I mean, it won't be enough, but very, very strong play here.
Yeah, she is the reigning WSCC champion. She's not going to make it happen this year, but obviously it was due to the incredible form displayed by Harika all around. It was a great start. She won the first 2 games. And yeah, Kateryna is likely going to take the last one. I think if she can convert this extra piece.
Rook g2 and bishop
beautiful.
e4.
Lovely tactic to end the match. Still Harika is fighting, but she's going to lose her pieces.
Okay, we're going to get this one. Queen f3. And she does have to resign, and indeed a sweet note for the defending champion to sign off on. But unfortunately for her, she is getting eliminated despite this lovely win in the last round.
And an excellent job by Harika. You can sense the disappointment. Kateryna had her chances in this match. There were a few times where, I mean, she kept it within a point. You know, eventually she tied the match. But I think in the first couple of games of the bullet, that is really where Harika made her money. She won those first couple of games, pushed the margin to 2 to 3, and Kateryna was just not able to bring that margin back. Amazing resilience displayed all around by Harika.
Yeah, it's just a joy to watch her play and to navigate these positions, even when she's up against the wall, always finding tricks. Such an important technique for anyone, for every level.
Indeed, and she is into the finals against Yifan tomorrow. But before we wrap up the show, we do have an interview with the winner, with Harika. We will set her up for the interview. Don't go anywhere. We'll hear her thoughts on this very scintillating match when we come back with more WSCC action in just a few.
Any good chess tactics book has one pattern in it that feels like it is on a completely different level than all of the other tactical patterns. Bearing the vivid and accurate moniker, the windmill, this pattern features an amazing sequence of repeated discovered checks that can be used to win a nearly unlimited amount of material. The most famous windmill is definitely the one played by Mexican prodigy Carlos Torre against former world champion Emmanuel Lasker. But Bobby Fischer's game of the century also features a windmill. Here's another one that I really like. White starts with a rook sacrifice that leads to a combination of bishop and rook checks that simply consume Black's forces. The Lafong is a dirty, dirty trick that will probably only work at bullet, but you have to pull it off at least once in your life. When you sense that your opponent is pre-moving g6 and bishop g7 to start the game, you can play d4 and bishop h6 to try to win the bishop on g7.
Shakes, guys. No one is watching. Oh, they all missed that. I see the tilt. I can feel the tilt.
It is a high risk and high reward strategy because you are hanging your own bishop if you don't catch them in a pre-move. But it is certainly hilarious when you do pull it off.
Like one of my friends, Asios, he made a bot. The report chart was partly based on hyperbullet games, so then you could see a lot of the Lafongs and queen c2 takes h7 and so on. So.
With Chess Kid's new live classroom feature, coaches can do so much more. Easily create or preload games from your library and invite your class in seconds. Teach face-to-face interactive lessons without having to leave the site. Teaching chess online has never been easier.
Welcome back to the Women's Speed Chess Championship. We have the winner of the semifinal match, Harika Dronavalli, in the studio for an interview. Harika, congratulations. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. And a big congratulations. Can you start by sharing your impressions of the match? How do you think you played? And what do you think was the major turning point of the match?
Thank you. I think firstly, like to start with, when I made like 2 points after the first break, I already felt like I missed before the break one game, like simple one more winning position. I realized I'm not going in a very good psychological frame. I shouldn't be like, making draws, and I should just try to play a game. And then I tried to change it a bit. But I think overall, the most turning point must have been like the win I won before 1 minute section, like the last win in the 3 minute section. I think that's where it was very critical that I started with the lead from 1+1, and 1+1 is already, I didn't know, after a point I lost control. I mean, I lost, like, I didn't even understand how many points I was in. And at some point, rook versus rook, okay, I mean, I was just trying to kill time, and I know that if you just offer a draw, it is just a draw. But like when my opponent didn't know, I just thought like, okay, I keep playing and kill some time. I don't know if it's like good strategy or not, but I just thought like, why not if I'm in lead, and just keep going. And I think after that draw, I also got chance in one more game. Most crucial, I think, is the French game, where I was like just winning. I think somewhere I started thinking that now I have real chances to win this match, because until then it's never clear, and the time was ticking down. And there I blundered, and after that I just didn't know what happened, how many points I was in. I just kept fighting. I just kept playing and playing.
Fighting definitely seemed like your spirit today, as no matter what the position, it always felt like you were never counted out. Like, how can you train that? Like, is there some secret to your resilience?
No, I just keep fighting. I don't have choice, and I just like try my best to not lose, and I keep playing and fighting.
Harika, you are facing Hu Yifan, a formidable opponent, tomorrow in the WSCC finals. You have a long history with her over the board and online. Can you tell us a little bit about your record against Hu Yifan, and also how you're going to prepare for that match and what your overall strategy is going to be?
Actually, I didn't even still process that I finished this and I'm going to finals, and that you're saying it's tomorrow. I just got to know. So definitely I'll try my best. I think already it's been one big match, and I just try to relax a bit, and I'll try to focus on the game as much as I can and try to play some quality games if possible. I think score, maybe I'm in little bit worse. I think last time I played with her in finals, like in 2021. And I lost in the finals. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, it's just a new day, and I'll fight.
What do you think it is about Hu Yifan that makes her so strong? If there's something you could pinpoint about her game.
Oh, of course, she's a very strong player. Her understanding of chess is really strong. And I think these days she's also playing pretty normal tournaments, couple of tournaments at least, not like she's not in touch or anything. I think she's a very very strong player, and I think a very interesting opponent to play with.
Well, we are certainly hyped for the final, and we're so glad you're going to be there, Harika. You played fantastic today. We were all inspired by your fighting spirit, and we can't wait to see more of it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Get some rest. Good luck tomorrow. And
thank you.
We're excited for the match.
Yeah.
Okay, that was Harika, our co-finalist, who will be taking on Hu Yifan. It's going to be an incredible match tomorrow, Jen. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the way that Harika approaches this match, just her fighting spirit, she says she has nothing to do but fight. That is really just kind of like part of her personality. She knows it's easy for her because that's just what she does. So I feel like that's really inspiring. And then, of course, Hu Yifan, just one of the greatest talents in chess, Danya. The level that she's able to keep up while also being a professor in the university, the youngest professor at her university. it's really something to marvel at.
It really is. I mean, it's like she hasn't missed a day of over the board chess. She's incredibly strong. And we will have an interview with Harika's opponent, Kateryna Lagno, who didn't quite manage to win the match, but put up a great fight. So send over your questions for Kateryna in the chat. We'll have her in the studio, and then we'll wrap up after the break. Welcome back to the Women's Chess Championship, where we are back with Grandmaster Kateryna Lagno, who wasn't quite able to pull out this semifinal match against Dronavalli Harika, but she played incredibly well, and we are very grateful that Kateryna is joining us for a quick interview. Kateryna, welcome, and thanks again. Can you start by sharing your overall thoughts about the match? How do you think you played, and where do you think the match got away from you?
Hi, guys. Well, I don't think I played it well. Sorry. I started a bit slowly. I lost 2 games with white pieces, and I didn't play well. So I think then I started getting good positions, but, well, I couldn't really convert it. And, well, okay. The match was about equal, but then I was really, really tired. And I just started blundering pieces, yes, in bullet. So I think today she was better and faster than me.
We were really excited by the match. I mean, every game so competitive, often coming down to the time scrambles. Do you think is going to win in the final tomorrow between Ho Yifan and Harika?
Well, do they play tomorrow already?
Yes, tomorrow.
Okay, so maybe she's gonna be tired, yes, Harika? Well, the match is really unclear. I would say that she's in a good shape, Harika. I could feel it. She was fast. She put a lot of pressure on me. So I don't know. I would say that she's gonna win this match. Let's take some risks.
Love it. Love it. I mean, you are the defending champion. So as much as we're sorry you won't be back in the final this year, it's really exciting to see your prediction. And you've competed in this event, won it last year. What is your favorite thing about the Women's Speed Chess Champs?
Well, I think it's a great tournament. Yes, it's exciting to play some because I don't play a lot online, so it's nice training. First of all, yes, to you play a lot of games with strong opponents. You try to see to see some tactics, yes, to try new openings maybe. So I think it's a good training for me. So that's what I like the most.
Kateryna, final question for you, and then we'll let you rest. Any over-the-board events or online events coming up for you? And if so, anything that you're looking forward to?
Well, only Rapid and Blitz. I don't play classical chess in the end of the year, so I'm looking forward to play in Samarkand World Rapid and Blitz Championship. So I hope it's gonna be a good training and before this event. So.
Should be a fun event. Kateryna, it's late for you. You played a long match. We will let you take your well-deserved rest. Congratulations on a great third-place finish in this year's WSCC. Best of luck in the World Rapid and Blitz. We look forward to seeing you compete more in subsequent years.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Great match.
Absolutely. There is the final bracket going into the finals. It'll be Harika against Hu Yifan. Nobody can believe that the match is tomorrow, Jen, but it is in fact tomorrow.
You know, I'm so excited about it. It's right before Thanksgiving. I mean, this is a time where people like to chill and enjoy their favorite sport, which of course for all you viewers is chess. And you're going to get a lot of chess tomorrow, as we are going to have these two fantastic players face off. I mean, sure, on paper we see Ho Yifan, amazing player, one of the greatest in history. But I mean, Kateryna said it herself. She felt the strength of Harika today. So it could certainly go either way.
And Harika has a pretty decent record with Hu Yifan. They actually are, in classical chess, tied 1-1 with 13 draws. So it has not been easy sledding for anyone against Harika. She's an incredibly solid player. She comes with great opening preparation. And we saw all of that today. I mean, if she displays the same form, it promises to be an incredibly exciting match, which will start even earlier than today. 7 a.m. Eastern time is the start. We will be waking up quite a bit earlier than that. But definitely very, very happy to wake up for this finals match. Jen, it was a great pleasure commentating with you as usual. I can't wait for tomorrow. Before I wrap up the show, your final thoughts on the action today.
I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better match. And I agree with Kateryna that Harika's blitz skills were phenomenal, never really lost on time. And Ho Yifan is just one of the most talented players. So I just think that tomorrow is going to be a battle of strengths. And I can't wait. So don't forget extra coffee, Danya. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. I'll have the pot brewing bright and early, and people watching, you should as well. Thank you everybody for joining us today for the semifinal. Jen, thanks again to you. It was a great pleasure. Our amazing crew at Chess.com and everybody watching. We'll see you tomorrow for the finals, but for now, have a great rest of the Tuesday. We'll see you with more finals action tomorrow. Goodbye.